Welcome, guys, to another episode of Joshin-Strike, and we've got here Monitor, the organization owner of DXA, in other words, known as Dynasty with Arena. I believe that was the merger, was that right?
Yeah, that's right. Dynasty X Arena. That's the one.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise known as Overtime Esports.
No, that's been taken. We'll talk about that soon. That title's been taken.
Anyways, how's your day been so far? How's your day been?
Yeah, good. I can't complain. It's a busy day at work, and then I had to catch up on a bit of ESWC for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But missed a couple games. But no, a very chill day. Played a bit of CS today too, which is
Mm-hmm.
a huge mistake.
Why was
Don't
it?
do that very often.
Why was it a huge mistake? Did you try IGLing your team?
I did. We won that game.
Mm-hmm.
But at 15K, mate, it's a whole nother world.
Mm-hmm. So how did you
You
get
know,
how did you get
yeah.
into Counter Strike to begin with? Like, what do you start with? 1.6 source condition zero. I mean, what other versions of it?
Oh, so I started beta. We worked this out the other day. It was beta 6. It was the 11th beta anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
the 11th release. So
Yep.
1999.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, my cousin got me into it. So me and a friend came over their house, went to a party like at their house, and
Yep.
late in that night, he decided to play some Counter Strike, and I was like, "What is this?" Oh, and we just spent the whole night playing, and I never stopped, and I never have stopped really.
Did you play any of the
But yeah,
other mods at that time? You had natural selection, you had ricochet. Did you
oh
play any of
yeah,
those?
yeah, I love Natural Selection. Natural Selection was my favorite, like as a second
Mm-hmm.
game, and then
Yep.
when Source came out, I went to TF2. Well, like most did. That was my side hustle,
Mm-hmm.
but was very much Natural Selection. I wish they bring that mod back, to be honest. And
Yep.
Warcraft mod in 1.6,
Yeah,
I got into as well.
I did hear about that as well. That was actually pretty good because I was seeing people playing Night Elf and Orc. I'm like, what the fuck is doing? What is
Yeah,
War 3 doing in this game? Did
there
you
was some strange ones.
did you play some Day of Defeat? Was Day of Defeat a HL mod?
Yeah. I was big in Day of Defeat. I was in a full war team. I can't remember what you call them, but it was like 30, 40 man
Jeez.
crew, and we just hit the servers against another 30-man crew and
Mm-hmm.
went right through to Day of Defeat 2. Day of
Mm-hmm.
Defeat was just CS with World War II weapons, so the
Yep.
same accuracy, same jump, same everything. So it was a really good mod.
What happened to it? Did it just like give up and just let Battlefield and COD take over? Do you know?
Day of Defeat 2 is still around, like the
Okay.
Source one.
Yep.
I have played that in recent years, but yeah, there's probably only two or three servers left. I mean, there's been other games like it
Mm-hmm.
that tried to, I can't think off the top of my head what they're called, but I
Mm-hmm.
tried a couple through the years, but it never took
Yep.
off.
So, like, when did you get into like competitive CS2 particularly, or Counter Strike, or whatever the beta
Yeah.
11? When you get to the esports side, like, what was your first team?
So I started off running servers, funnily enough, when I was 13 with a couple of friends of mine. And it was called Windshop. It was on the Gold Coast. It was a little Pentium
Mm-hmm.
500 that we had in a data center on the Gold Coast, and that sort of started our little run into Dust. We had a Dust server, Dust only server, deathmatch, did a few different things.
Yep.
But after that, I sort of started going into internet cafes, which was big back then. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to go down to Sunnybank first, was where I started. And then
Yep.
after that, the bunker opened. So I started playing at the bunker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I started playing competitively. I started playing with Jim Nesso.
Yep.
He was one of my first people I played on a team with.
Mm-hmm.
JKS played on a team with. He was 8 at the time. Gomez. There was a
Shit,
guy
man.
named TJ. Yeah, like it was all the crew. Asa was around back then as younger. But the bunker was the place to be. That's where all the lands happened. The Bunker Gaming League was what sort of started everything for you know down the east coast, and then ESWC was coming around Perth at the
Mm-hmm.
time. So we'd travel over to Perth or we'd go down to Luna Park for World Cyber Games. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 1.5, 1.6 was when I started
Yep.
really playing competitively, and then I had kids, so I was gone pretty early in the scene.
Retired, mate. Kids are
Yeah,
crippling injury. Took an arrow to the knee and he's gone because of the kids, mate.
that's right. That's right. So I took a 10-year break, and in that time, I had A gamers, which was Jim and JKS and
Hmm.
Swing and a few others. Then I went off to Sten's Gaming,
Yep.
which was Stephen Stenhouse. He's a fruit pick, like he owns fruit picking companies for
Yeah.
Woolies.
Yeah.
He got right into esports for a while. So yeah, it was a good scene back then.
Very, very interesting. A
Every,
large variety of companies coming in to just, fruit pickers. Next up, you get
oh,
a
it was a
logistics.
different world. Yeah, it was an absolute different world back then. You know, yeah, Samsung, you'd give me 30, 40 screens and just leave them behind. Oh yeah, use them at your next events. You know, nothing like what it is now.
You,
It's a
mu-
lot different.
you must return these five monitors in mint condition of the wrapping on it.
Or sell them at a certain commission.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Also, I was wondering overall, like, when you went to WA, because you said you went to WA, which LAN centers did you go to? You go to DNA or?
Yeah, well, back then I don't think it was called that. God, this is like
Yeah.
2006, 2008.
Oh,
So
yeah, it would have been beyond
yeah,
DNA because I went to.
yeah, long before that. Yeah,
Yeah, because I used to play CS there, then I just quit and played WoW and RuneScape, so pretty much I didn't get into CS2 in particular, or CS.
yeah. We even owned an in-air cafe for a while at Forest Lake in Brisbane for a few mates of mine and I back when I ADSL was a big thing. We had 3 ADSL links coming in and a few PCs in a shopping centre. It was great. Like back
Yeah.
then was big, you know.
What happened to internet
Yeah.
cafes? Like, are most of them, any of them still running, or are they all shut down now? Because, of course, internet standards have risen considerably and the NBN exists. Like, what
Mm.
happened to your internet cafes?
I think internet cafes still feed. They're still around, but they're definitely not for our market, not the same market. There's a couple of esports ones down in Melbourne, Sydney, specifically for tournament, but other than that, they're really all just sort of pointed towards touristy sort of stuff now. So
Yep.
they don't put as much gear in, etc. There's still quite a few around. There's 3 in Brisbane alone, but yeah, they're not sort of suited for esports anymore.
Yeah. So with the JKS and Azure stuff, are you telling me that most
Yeah.
of Australia's CS players just come from one land centre in Queensland? Is there anyone else that's been notable that has come from
Oh,
Queensland?
I mean, probably not people you'd remember. Like
Yeah.
there was, Davio, there was all those guys, the F-Zero guys, the NK guys, like Immunity guys. A
Hmm.
lot of them were Brisbane and Sydney. They more went towards Sydney down the track. Um, but yeah, a lot of it sort of was bred because first play, like if you played online, your first place ticket would get you a ticket to Brisbane. So there was always a lot of tournaments in Brisbane back
Hmm.
then. It was sort of the hub. The bunker sort of ran lots of leagues. So
Yeah.
um, that's how we met everyone. And then World Cyber Games at Luna Park was like 3 days with the boys, like every
Hmm.
team would just converge on Luna Park. You'd all hang out together and you do that 3 times, 4 times a year. So
Hmm.
you'd always be seeing everyone. It's not as, you know, like it is now where it's a bit less going on and no national tournament. There was always a national tournament going on.
Hmm. So how did the national tournaments evolve? Obviously you had your bunker league. Where did that go on to? Did that
Yeah.
go to Sydney, like with cyber gamings? Like, how did it evolve?
So Bunker League was just local and yeah, like someone would jump in like after a few years, Sten's Gaming League started up. Like Sten was doing one, so there'd be a national twice a year. He did winter and summer.
Yep.
Then on the back, there was a one called Code Red at one point, which was
Hmm.
run by someone. Oh, I can't remember who it was run by. And then Big Pond was huge. Big Pond was huge back then. I worked at Big Pond,
Was Code
owned by
Red
Telstra.
was Code Red the talent agency, or
Yeah.
is it just a similar name?
Nah, similar name because there was a promotion with Coca-Cola at the time called Code Red as well, and
Hmm.
they threatened to sue us, and then they realized we had the name first, and they disappeared. So But uh, but they did send us a cease and desist, and then they realised the dates. I think so. We got to keep it. But
uh,
I mean, Harvey Norman was big back on the day as well. I was the Southeast Queensland gaming manager at one point, and traveling around with teams. Like it was a different time back then.
did you send a cease and desist letter back of the reverse card?
We were all just young, and we were looking at new names, and then they just disappeared. So we just kept going, So
so after
it was
so
scary times.
so after Stan's gaming, where did it go to next?
Mm.
And where did you go to next in relation to
Well, I
like?
went. Yeah, so I went to Immunity for a short bit with Nitro, and then I split off, and that's when I had kids. So that was sort of the birth of the teams that you'd know more now. Was when Immunity and all the old teams. I think who would have been around back then? Parallax, I think was,
Yeah.
whatever it was called. But yeah, like that was the start of the teams. Vox was just starting up,
Mhm.
or being talked about. Everyone was growing up. Gomez was quite young when I met him, and he was getting older, so he started doing his thing then. But yeah, that's about when I walked away. That's when I went and got a job and had a life, and then
Yeah.
didn't come back till CS:GO. So
I did joke at
yeah,
that I Am Sydney event, that how that show match between Henry G and stuff. I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
you get the British were lucky that Gomez wasn't on the server. He would get 40 at least.
yeah, exactly, 100%. Gomez is a sleeper, mate. He can play.
So, like, do you know what happened, like, after those leagues in particular? Did, like, ECA come in and take it over particularly? Or was that, like, after... I assume that was after Vox or during Vox when ECA came in and ran a league in Australia?
Yeah, that was about midway. Like that was about 2 or 3 years after I started, started to pull away because all of the land stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I moved away. There wasn't a lot of. I was doing a lot of the event work for it as
Yeah.
well. So when the nationals stopped, like ESWC pulled out, WCG pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
It was like we just need to run our own thing, and that's sort of when I dropped off. So
Yeah.
I know the ESEA came in, or CG, whatever you want to. CG was around and things like that.
Yeah.
Cybergamer, but that was right at the end of my tenure.
So, after that 10-year break, what made you want to get back into CSGO in particular? Like, who dragged you back in? Like,
It's
who do we thank?
funny, yeah. Well, I don't even know who to thank. I wouldn't say thank, but I came back. I started playing. I had the bug.
Yeah.
I came in and out a few times, but I started hanging around with Glitch, who's another owner of DXA.
Yeah.
And there was a few others that I hung around with, and I was still talking to Boomser and Tegs and that at the
Mm-hmm.
time. So I just got back into it, started playing around their mates, and then one day I said, "Oh, stuff it! I'm going to start a new team." And then SGN approached me, which was Sanguine Gaming,
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Hey, come and be an owner with us and see where it goes." And that's where it all started back up about 5 years ago. I just jumped on the bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bit of money this time. I'd been working, so I
Yeah.
thought, stuff it, let's do it. And I haven't looked back since.
Like I say, I remember saying when gaming ages ago, I think it's either from Champs or Main, or was it from LPL?
Mm.
It's a game I casted in particular, and they played pretty well. I was actually surprised of how well they played, given the fact that I'd never heard of them before. I think they'd lost in the end. They were versus a better team, but I think they scored
Yeah, I
it.
think it was DDG or something.
Yeah.
We lost a couple of times to DDG, but yeah, it was. Keo just came to me one day and said, "Hey, we want to play under a name, and
Mm-hmm.
can we play under you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I love CS," and we got to know each other. And there was Neo, Terry. I think Ryan was in the original team. Sinister
Banana,
was. I know that.
the duo, the Terry Banana duo.
Yeah, yeah. I think Sinister was in the first iteration as
Yeah,
well.
2 minutes. I remember his name.
Pearl had a run at one point, but it was that crew, same crew. Art of War plus minus Eddie.
Yep.
Sunshines came through, but then I left SGN. SGN was going. There was a few issues going on, and they were taking on a lot of teams and stuff. So I started Arena and brought Keo over, and,
Mm-hmm.
and we're now up to modern day. Like, yeah, Arena and DXA sort of going hand in hand, obviously.
So what was
But,
do you regret like taking the break out of CS in particular, or was that just a much needed kind of thing? Like, you wouldn't be where you are now if you didn't take that break.
I mean, there's always regrets, right? Like, I'm a huge gamer. Like, I'm a gamer at heart. I've always been into esports. I've always managed teams or been playing. So it was hard for me to leave. But I had no other option. I had a kid 2 years apart. So I had two kids within 2 years, and I just had to grow up for a little while. But
Yeah.
I regret it. Like, I regret getting out of the scene because so many people have done so much more now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess having that break's allowed me to set myself up and be able to be a real owner,
Yeah.
and not just a kid with a Twitter handle. So, learning, having that break, growing up, and then coming back, I think has probably been a very good thing for me. Clearly,
yeah. Because I gotta say, kind of changing destinies kind of thing. Because Moe stuck to it when he became a parent, and he, joined Chiefs and whatnot, and reading his stuff. Have you read his blog posts per se of like what he went through? I think it was a Twitlonger actually. I'm not
No,
sure.
I haven't.
But you know,
No.
he was taking care of kids. He like only had like a first week on the job, but he was trying to ask for leave to go to
Mm,
WA to contest for an Asia minor slot. Yours is kind of like the
yeah.
opposite, where you're just like, nah, we'll get our CS. You know, it's not worth the sacrifice, kind of thing. And
Well,
you,
I did so much, yeah. Like I was lucky enough to do so much and travel a lot and
yeah,
play with a lot of good teams. So it was like it's time to go,
hmm
like it was such a big lull.
yeah,
Um, Hats off to all the people who stuck it out
hmm
because that was the first esports winter and it was a long one.
hmm yeah. So
But
did you ever experience esports winter, or were you just out before it came to a passing?
no, I experienced a couple of I experienced an esports winter back then,
Yeah,
where all of the I don't know what happened in the world. I can't remember. Maybe it was global financial crisis or something. But
yeah,
a lot of retailers pulled out, and there was nothing. And that was the death of nationals and the death of pretty much everything. So
hmm
I was definitely there for that one. This one's definitely not as bad, but it is bad in recent time. Worse than recent winters, I should say, like before COVID.
I gotta say, like, you know, before COVID in particular, like, the worst thing about COVID in particular is just what it did to Renegades. Like, that roster in particular, like,
Exactly. It destroyed them.
I attended that last DreamHack at Leipzig. I was there because I was
Mm.
meeting up with one of my
Yeah.
friends, and Renegades were playing at the same time. And they get second at that event, and then COVID hits, and it's just like they can't play overseas.
Yeah, it completely just shut everything down. It
Yeah.
was just heartbreaking because I was that's what one of the reasons why I got back into it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was watching Renegades from afar. I knew Gomez was involved. I've always
Mm-hmm.
followed what Gomez does. I've known him for so long. But yeah, it was just like watching it. We're finally making it.
Mm-hmm.
Then 100 Thieves jump on them. It's the fairy tale and then death. Just
Uh,
death of LAN.
yeah.
It was just horrible.
Oh no, I was actually referring to the Dexter Renegades, not the Berlin
Oh, we're
Major.
going back. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry. We're going back.
we go,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
go,
No.
we no, we're going forward actually because Renegade. Wait, what
We're going
happened?
full. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, because basically Hunter Thieves picked up the team, then Renegades picked up Greyhound.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You're
Yeah,
right. Yep.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah. But yeah, that Dexter led team, or actually that Hunter Thieves team, I think they were being pushed out at that point as well because
Yeah, exactly.
I think the joke was that Nature realized he had the CS team.
He actually woke up. But
um,
it
no,
was a big kick in the guts for everyone though. That
mhm.
after that, there was a huge lull in OCE again after that. So it's sad.
Do you think we're ever going to be able to have like an Australian team to contest that again? Like, you know, to be at the levels of Renegades, as people put it?
I believe if we keep putting time into grassroots, yes.
Uh,
If we keep putting a lot of time into grassroots, we'll get the players through.
mhm.
I don't know if and that'll lift the current players, but because we're so isolated, we need more teams to catch up
Yeah,
so that the top 20, 30 are scrimming every day,
yeah,
not just the top 10,
well,
and
yeah.
even then that's another thing to chat about. But
Mhm.
yeah, until there's that ecosystem rebuilt, we're going to suffer a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I sometimes contest the notion, like, you know, is a team good as Renegades, you know, back in the day? Because the reason why I
Mm,
contest it is one, the level of play has gone up, okay? And
yeah.
secondly, Renegades didn't really challenge for many tournaments, like the top tier Renegades, other than that Berlin Major where they made the semi-finals. They didn't challenge too much, as in, like, you know, against
No.
top tier teams. So I really like
Mm,
when people be like, "Oh, can they reach the levels of that?" I'm just like, they only had one good run, mate. Like, it's not like they had consistent performances back to back to back. If they did, I'd be like, "Yes, you know,
mm.
we need to achieve that. We're definitely below it." But I feel with in particular with geez, I forgot the name now with FlyQuest.
Mm.
They're only. I'm gonna say right now, this is gonna be controversial to a lot because everyone thinks they're absolutely trash sometimes, like other people. They're only like a few rounds going a different direction, a few composure, a few, you know, little hips and bobs, and they could turn around to be challenging some of those top six teams.
Oh yeah. Look, that team,
Yeah.
and I'm not shitting on coaches. I'm not shitting on staff or anything. They're very new. But if
Mhm.
that team gets in line, gets some good stats up, gets their time in all of these boot camps, I still think that they can very much challenge. They're all capable. All five of those players are very capable of stepping up. It's just a matter of getting that time in Europe, because Europe plays determining how everyone's playing. NA's feeling it. South Africa's feeling it. South America, sorry. But you've got to spend time in Europe, and that's hard for Australian teams. We're on the other side of the globe, and unless you get that time up there, I think there's a huge meta shift, and that's one reason why traditionally Australian CS teams have done well in the past before back CS Source and in Sydney Underground, etc., is because they played a different game. They were so isolated that when they showed up to international events, they destroyed, because they were doing, triple boosts and weird shit, and it threw all of the international play out. So you've got two things. You either FlyQuest are going to come back to Australia and build with grassroots, because they can't be there forever, and if they're not succeeding, and then change their style to the Aussie style and see if they can make it work again. Or you go to Europe and just be like everyone else, it's one or the other. You've either got to shock and awe, or you've got to be one of the top contenders.
Yep. Let's get back to your organization and whatnot in particular. So you started Arena in particular. So you had Keo. What was your team back then? So you had Keo,
Neo. I think the first Arena... God, my brain, I'm 40, come on. So it was Keo, Neo. I think Terry was on the LAN team for Bris Vegas as Arena. Prackham was playing in one of them as well. Who else? There was Banana. But Ryan's come in and out of Arena like 3 times.
Yeah. Too many Hollow Live concerts, mate.
Was in and out. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same. It's that Art of War sort of crew that was in the early setup of Arena plus Keo. And then obviously at the end of Arena, Lucas was coming in. He's one of my oldest as well.
Yep.
That are still around. But yeah, like it was always Neo, Keo were the 2 main players, and we always had a core around that. But it's sort of we've always had that challenge of, can we keep 5 for a whole series? And that a lot of teams are feeling that at the moment now with 5 internationals gone. I just felt it a bit more, because it was a bit harder for me to fit in another team into that, especially at the time, ANZ Champs main. Trying to get into a top 5 with Arena was hard, and we did it that one season, which was amazing. But it was a lot different landscape then. There was a gate-kept top 5, so it was exciting. That's what really got me right into it, and keep pushing it out hard as I do now, is watching that first core perform.
I remember back in the days, like Rooster was a gate-kept roster, basically. Like Rooster was trying to get to the top 5, and I was like I think it was only one of the casters said, Rooster's a top 5 team. Like they will beat Ground Zero, and maybe a few other people said it, and then Rooster finally got in there. I think they picked up ASAP from Rock Candy, and they just went hell for leather. Now with Arena, so when did you merge with Dynasty? Like obviously DXA got created. Like how did that happen?
So that's been about 18 months, 2 years now. I'm not good with dates. I'm old, as you get older, the time goes. Oh,
come on, mate. Get the file up. Get the trustee down.
I'd have to get when we made it. Hold on.
Get the ASIC extract out, mate. Come on. I'm a financial advisor. I know.
Yeah, let me AVN look up. No, it's been just on 2 years. So it all came out of, and I hate to admit this, but it all came out of a Ferox game night. So I met the Dynasty boy. Me and Glitch were on Arena. Adam and Customs were on Dynasty, and we're playing Among Us. And Among Us really proves the sort of people you are. And we got along really well, and both of us sort of just came to each other and said, hey, let's merge. And let's be bigger. And at the time they had an EU Apex team, I had the CS team and Valorant team. So it just sort of was perfect. And it just was a match made in heaven. I mean, I regret it now. No, I don't. I love the guys. Absolute bangers, 2 of the best. All 3. I mean, I've known Glitch a lot longer, but the other 2 from Dynasty, best best people I've ever come across, genuine wise, and just wanting to make a difference. They've got the same idea, so it was it was a match made in heaven.
We just posted that on YouTube Shorts as well, by the way, guys. You can look at YouTube Shorts to see Monitor saying that in 4K. But anyways, how did
Well, that's right. Customs is in Serbia at the moment. One phone call and he's gone.
who picked the name? Was it like, you guys were trying to think of a name? You're just like, how about DXA? Okay, how did the naming process go?
Yeah, at first we both we both had a bit of a brand, right? And Dynasty had been around a lot longer than me, but we both had a pretty good brand up and going. I'd had Arena for about a year and a half. So we just thought, let's be like TSM. No one ever knows whatever uses the TSM full name, and so let's just do DXA, and that's what we that's all it was we got sick of trying to think of names, so we just went, okay, DXA. No one's ever gonna really care what the full name is, so that's what we went with.
Okay. So by TSM you mean Team Solo Mid? So everyone knows now you can call it Team Solo Mid.
Yeah, Team Solo Mid. But TSM sounds much nicer.
Yeah. I won't comment.
So yeah, that's the crux of it. A bit of play on that.
Mm-hmm. So what has DXA done since that merger in particular? Like, what have you guys got into? So you had the Apex team, you had the CS team, you had the Valorant team. I could go with the American version with Valor Can't as a joke.
So we've had I think we've had 2 different Valorant rosters. We have actually moved out of Valorant for the moment just because the scene's a bit wishy-washy. And there's a lot of people getting banned. the ESIC experience, but in Riot.
No,
so.
I've never seen that at all. What are you talking about, players being banned?
No, what are you talking about?
Yeah, never heard of it.
So, but I did recently get into Game Changers. Good friend of DXA, Aspra, she came to us and said, want to play Valorant, and if we make it through, can we play under DXA? And yeah, we did some stuff with them, and I absolutely loved it. And it's been great. We've still got them on there at the moment, but we also do Trackmania. Last year was huge for us. We've got a Singapore driving team and a Chinese driving team. The rules have changed this year to solo, so sort of ruined orgs a little bit.
Okay.
Thanks Ubisoft. Great. But it was a great year. Last year we had so much fun with Trackmania. We had our own F1 cars in there, the DXA car in there, and
that's cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. What else have we done? We've done a few others. We were in R6 in the Nova series there for a little while. And yeah, we dabble, like if teams come to us and they want an opportunity and they want to, they don't have the money to rego and stuff like that, then that's what we look for, like, or like, and the PUBG. PUBG is my favorite team. Like, don't tell the CS boys, but they're all older people like me, and well, not as old. I'm sorry if they're listening, but I'm from the PUBG era. I played a lot of PUBG when I stopped playing CS, and I love those boys. They're absolute ripper. So they're my side project, but I've got a soft spot for PUBG. So but CS and PUBG is what I look after, and then the other boys look after everything else. And they've got multiple teams. I can see Craymon in the chat, like, crying now.
Yep.
Sorry, Craymon.
James could be DMing you shortly, being like, "Mate, you're off the team," and you can be like, "You can't do this."
How dare you like PUBG? How dare you like another game?
Yeah, exactly.
But so what about, CS is my heart, 25 years of CS.
What about WoW, the Arena World Cup, Mythic Plus, the MDIs, DXA win?
The reason why our internet cafe went bust was because of WoW. One of the guys was not taking money from the people and was just unlocking machines because he was so into it, into his rating. So I have a little bit of disdain for WoW, so that's the reason I don't watch you play WoW, mate.
Oh, damn, that's pretty bad, actually. Now, okay, I
get a little bit of PTSD.
Yeah, you got a banter going on with MJ, okay? Where did this banter with MJ come from? Obviously, if you guys don't know, Michael Carmody, the Mind Freak owner, ex-Legacy, he's everywhere. You probably, everyone knows him at this point. So what happened? Okay, how did this go up?
So, do you want the real answer or the troll answer?
Both.
All right. So, I hate that guy. He's a piece of shit. No, look, at the end of the day, MJ and I are very much similar. We both come from very similar backgrounds when it comes to work. I met MJ through Mav. If
Yeah.
you don't know who Mav is, Mav owns Defrag.
Sorry, repeat that. Who's Mav again? Okay, slower for everyone to hear, okay?
Maverick, the god who owns Defrag TV, introduced me to MJ, and we started working a little bit outside of. I've lost Josh here.
I was only trolling when I got him.
But look, MJ is just a really good guy. He's helped me a lot, given me a bit of guidance. He's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to working in teams and the OCE world.
Yep.
But we're also very similar. He's older than me, so I have someone that I can call an old bastard. And we like the rivalry. If you don't have a team to rival against, then what do you got? So, that's just our love is to hate each other during the game and then to be best mates and work together outside. So it's just how it is. But I got a lot of respect for MJ. Just if you're listening, MJ, I have zero respect for you, but everyone else, I do have a lot of respect for a guy,
Last but not least in particular, what do you do outside of CS? Like, esports and stuff like that?
Short answer is I'm a control systems engineer. So I work in power stations and mining. Long answer is I put out fires for companies that get hacked as well, industrial companies. So I come in and stop a cyber attack, clean up the mess, get plant operating again, and then off we go again.
So you come in as a high pressure hose to spray the computers, be like, turn off, mate.
Pretty much, yeah. You can't break it any worse than it is, so I've got the balls to fix it. So, I'm in a very, very little niche there, but very much heavily into industrial control systems.
So what do you see in the future for yourself in esports, like with DXA? Like, where do you want to take DXA?
To the moon. I mean, all four of us want to take it to the moon. It's just a hard... we got to do it safely, There's been a lot that just buy teams and disappear after a season. We're not about that. We're in it for the long run.
Yep.
I see us having a very long... we don't just do... Like, DXA is not just DXA too. We have Arena Industries behind it. We have merch company behind it. So, there's a few things that build it as well. But Arena Industries is obviously the educational side, doing similar stuff to what Bliss and Chiefs do.
Yeah.
Being Brisbane, we hit the same sort of areas. But I just want to keep developing esports in Australia. I love, and it's a huge bonus to have teams in the top tiers and being able to compete. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that everyone gets a go like I did. And it hasn't been like that for a while. So that's why I'm here. And that's why I think most of us are here in DXA, is to just give opportunities to people that are like-minded.
I'm trying to think I completely forgot my question here, actually. Is it kind of a way that you're going to introduce a new Kerbal space program team since you're going to go to the moon?
I mean, if there's an esports in it, then we'd look at it. Like, full transparency, we're looking at League, but there's obviously big changes in League at the moment, so we're just waiting to see what happens there. And we're looking at opportunities around CS having an amateur team as well, now that there may be a third series, an advanced or something, just waiting to see what happens with ECL. Yeah, an intermediate. So would give us room to play with amateur teams. Just the licensing at the moment makes it hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about development for us. So, we'll always have a main team and an amateur team where we can. And I would like to spend more time making it overseas in CS, but it's a hard slog. We've got to develop this team, but we're looking to do that in Valorant as well. So that's sort of our focus at the moment.
I was wondering, like, you're trying to develop DXA to be something like Endpoint in the UK, where like the performance of their team isn't the most important thing for cash flow.
Oh yeah, 100%. We don't take any winnings whatsoever. We're basically non-for-profit. So we don't take any winnings from our teams. That they've earned that money. They deserve that money. And even if we're paying players, we don't take a cut. Obviously, we have in previous times with bigger teams in Apex,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a whole different kettle of fish in Europe. But anything OCE based, we don't take any
Oh no,
winnings off of our players.
what I was referring to is that your main cash flow
Mm.
comes from outside activities, like for example, like Endpoint market themselves as an esports team, and have advertisers and flip players and whatnot. That's what I meant by that. Like, is that your kind of
Oh yeah,
role?
no, yeah. That we just funnel money in from other projects, so
Yeah.
it's more of a that's the end game and that's our passion piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then we funnel money in from other businesses that we have, and we have a private investor as well,
Yep.
who's very much into it but is old and doesn't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're just very thrifty, like we don't just throw 3K a month at a team and hopefully they win. We'd rather spend the money on developing players over time.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means losing top players, and that's just how it is, because that's how we roll.
Yep. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the interview. Large
Mm-hmm.
history of CS, a large history of orgs, and a bit of insight on, a bit what orgs do and whatnot, and your role in orgs back then. We're going to get up to the first part of the podcast, which is going to
Yep.
be the recent results. And, well, let's just say the recent results, okay, I thought Mind Freak were going to be normal, okay? Let's just talk about the player roster moves, okay? I
All
typed,
right.
I,
So player. Yep.
I typed out that recap. Okay, I gave me like, yep, Mind Freak is
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
normal.
mm-hmm.
Mind Freak is completely normal. And then one day later, Slimy super looking for team, and I'm just like, ugh, I hate everything
Yeah.
and everyone.
Like, I was shocked, right? Like, obviously we hear things in the background and what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And when I heard that, it sort of just floored me, especially because I do know MF pretty well.
Yeah,
And it, I don't know if it was knee-jerk reaction to how the team was playing first 2 weeks, or whether there was a pipeline. I don't know. You'd have
yeah,
to ask MJ.
yeah.
But I'm on the fence. I think that this sort of team's going to go hard and fast and then lose pep over time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hope they prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you're bringing in someone who's been playing Valorant for a long time, sorry, Rick, but and then had a break and then comes back in swinging, and then you've got Texter, who's I think is just a good pickup, but
Mm-hmm.
sort of probably sitting at a similar level to Slimy and Supers, because I haven't seen him play for a while. I could, if he has been, sorry.
He has played some
But
qualifiers.
yeah, so has Pat and people,
Yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah.
I haven't seen him sort of regularly playing, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a gamble. It's a gamble both ways when you look at it. As an org owner, I see it on paper and I go,
Yeah.
okay, there's a lot of positives, but there's also a lot of negatives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a wish wash for me. Like, it's not something I'd do personally, but
Yeah.
there's obviously a reason why they did it, and they performed last week. So
Yeah.
watch this space.
I'd say overall it's a bit of a wish wash for me as well. I think the recent performance is a bit of a honeymoon period. Can't really take too much up from
Mm,
that. I know they beat Arcade, of course. They beat them 2-0.
yeah,
But overall, like I get the Texter one. I just don't get the Ricky
yeah,
one. I really don't get the Ricky one.
yeah,
They're bringing forward, like what they're doing particularly, are they're wanting to bring forward success as much as possible because of
mm,
how the playoffs went, and
yeah,
obviously that shortens the time frame of how long that roster is together. And
yeah,
obviously with Super and Slimy going out, of course, so their potential is a lot lower. But also they've got an IGL whose time frame's a lot lower as well as with Tux. So
yeah,
I
exactly.
can understand it bringing it forward like that, but I just don't understand Ricky. You could have either kept either Super or Slimy in particular, keep one of the two. But I know a lot of teams overall, like if they move one person, they usually just move two instead. But
Yeah, and I mean, traditionally, Mindfreak have done that too.
yeah,
They've always sort of moved two, but you're right. They've given themselves a very short time frame. I
yeah,
mean, they've come through people like Marvin and players like that are coming up and big, and you've got,
mhm,
Slimy, Supers, Pain. They're all making a name.
yeah,
Why go backwards? I mean, I've got Mon, so, you could throw a cast at me too, but
mhm,
obviously he was sub and then came in because of an issue. But
yeah,
yeah, look, watch this space. I'm both excited and frustrated by that roster,
mhm,
and I can't quite put my finger on why
yeah.
yet.
Yeah, like I say,
Being that I've only seen him play 2 games.
like I say, overall with Slimy and Super, I can't see them not being picked up by any tier one team in particular. They performed really well. Like, they had some really good, multi frags and whatnot in particular,
Mm.
and also had some really good clutch moments as well. So I don't see how they can't fit on a team. Like,
Oh, they'll get picked up so quick. It's not funny.
yeah,
They should. I can't see why they wouldn't. There's so many gaps to fill at the moment. There's a lot of people being trialed around, and now you've got 2 top players that have performed available.
yeah.
So good luck to anyone who takes them. Let's
But
be honest. I mean, if I had space, they'd be trialing.
mhm.
So yeah,
let's get let's get
you've
some.
always got to trial people out.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And like I say,
Mm.
like Super and Slimy in particular, like Slimy impressed me a lot, even though I said I don't rate Slimy on the Orb as being that replacement for Mind Freak. But he did very
Yeah.
well with the rifle. He was actually a lot better with the rifle, and I was really impressed. And he definitely proved
Oh
me
yeah.
wrong. And he left a sad face when I said that on my response to my tweet, me saying that. But I like it. I like it. I like it when people prove me wrong. At least, like, what I'm trying to say is, I say this from like a try to say it from a neutral standpoint. It isn't trying to bring players down. It's like, oh, not too sure. But let's get to the results. We got
Oh
KZG v
yeah.
Arcade,
No, you're right.
which was a
Yep.
1-1 basically. Arcade won Inferno 13-5, and they completely killed them, I've got to say. But KZG matched it back on Ancient with a very, very good, I believe it was T-side.
Look, Ancient is a KZG map. If you're playing KZG on Ancient, expect a hard match. I've always seen them be fairly consistent on that map. Prove me wrong, but I think Arcade are very strong at the moment. They're pracking hard. I know Jason's been whinging at me that they can't get enough practice. Like they're keen. They're super keen. But KZG is just that solid lineup that puts up rounds on the day, and always. I always say to my team, in particular, and I'm sure it's probably similar to others.
Yeah,
they're probably underrated a little bit. Like you don't treat them with the same respect you would other teams, and it catches you out. And until you do that with a team like KZG, whether you like it or not, you've got to respect it. Like, and it catches us out, catches Arcade out. We can beat KZG on LAN, we've proved it, but they're a kryptonite online because and with a lot of teams they're a kryptonite online. And that's the only thing I can put my finger on is that they're not treated with probably as much respect as they should be on the field.
Oh, definitely. Like with Inferno, even though their scoreline looks like they got stomped, their assists and trading was pretty similar to Arcade's. And like if you put like your hand over the scoreline, you think it's like a 13-9 game or a 13-10 game. But no, it was just decided by a lot of key jewels that just went into Arcade's favor in particular. Now, in Ancient, I was going to say that was a lot closer game in particular, and Arcade were like, they were hanging on basically, but KCG were just slightly better. But I got to give it credit to Arcade. 10 rounds on KCG's best map is fairly decent, given that those teams probably 50-50.
I think Arcade are going to do really well. They're settling. I know they've had a bit of muck around as well because of all of the changes, but they're settling in. They've had a few players for a long time now. I love Jaden. I hate Foggers. I think he's a great player. But I don't know. It's just something about that roster. They're right on the line to take some big games.
Yeah.
But they just haven't had that confidence to roll over that little bit further. They need that extra oomph, that extra play. That I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I don't get to see them a lot too because I watch a lot of the DXA games. So, but yeah, I feel like they're going to get there. They just need a little bit more time to cook, especially with the change at the moment. I
think the Vezza pickup's been very huge for them in particular.
Oh,
I mean, they lost APOC, done. They also lost Damio as well, which has just been absolutely frustrating, where their star players are just being picked for pieces and they just can't keep anyone. And also putting Triplus, or Triplus as a lot of people call him, to the IGL role. He's a very good support player. He trades out incredibly well, so putting him to the IGL role and being a pack player as well, it has definitely improved Arcade overall. We should go to the next results, though. Oh, actually, sorry.
Yep, sorry, go for it. I was just going to say I rate Triplus because he played on Dynasty. No, I've seen him a long time. A lot of value in IGL.
Yeah.
It was a good call.
Yeah, we could get next Arcade's game, which is Arcade against Mind Freak. And I gotta say, Mind Freak, I guess a bit of a honeymoon period, but they stomped Arcade into the dust on both Dust 2 and Nuke. And I gotta say, I think there's just
Yeah,
both maps is just literally Mind Freak won the veto. That's all I'm gonna put it down to.
I haven't watched that game back, but I'm very keen to watch it back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. Honeymoon period, five stompers, keen to play. Ricky's back. Texas wants to frag out,
Mm-hmm.
gives confidence to the other core. They're just going to frag out for a little while, which is what I was saying before. It's how long they can keep that up,
Yeah.
and how long before other teams pick up on the new plays.
Yeah.
That's what they've got. That's one thing they've got over everyone at the moment is 5-star players, and no one knows their strats yet.
Yeah.
So watch this space. I think as teams figure them out, they'll pull back a bit. It's just whether they can maintain that momentum from week one.
It is a hard one to really tell because they're really strong in Dust 2 and Nuke. I mean, last time they played Dust 2 and Nuke, they, like, I think it was in the ISF, for example, or so even in the playoffs as well, they completely...
I lost you, Josh. Oh, there we go.
They completely destroyed teams, like, on Dust 2, and I think they destroyed Vantage on Dust 2 and Nuke, eliminating him 2-0, I believe, in ECL.
Yeah. They've always had a strong Nuke. I mean, there was that period where DXA we took over and we started beating them quite consistently, and then they switched over and they came back, and we haven't beat them since.
Mm-hmm.
We've always played them on Nuke, and it's always been close, and Nuke back then was a big one for us. We took it from Rooster back then, the first time. So Nuke was a very solid map for us, and they always put up a huge fight. So I can't see any difference there. It's Tux's playground, so he loves Nuke. He always brings every new core team or whatever he's playing around into Nuke. So it's always going to be solid.
Yeah. The next series is going to go to Mantra v B&K. And I'm going to say Mantra, they always contest. They did this last time as well. They contest in the first map pretty well, like lose pretty closely. And then the stamina piles down and they fall to pieces.
Yeah. It's a like for like, isn't it? Doesn't matter whether it was Mind Freak or B&K. They can put up the numbers. They've got some good players.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely not going to, I don't think they're not going to not win a game. Like, but I don't think they're as established probably as some of the rosters that are here. So they're not probably going to put the big numbers up against the bigger teams.
Yeah.
But I still think they're going to fight very heavily down in the bottom 6.
Yeah.
Or bottom 5, I should say. But Mantrix semi excites me. It's always a semi good lineup. It's always some land players, some newbies. It's. I think watch this space. If they stick together, they could definitely do something. I think they're a team to watch over a few series.
Yeah,
if they can stick together.
I'm really happy with their quality of CS in the first map. The biggest worry I have is the second map drop off is massive. Like it's just I think it was like 13-10 against Mind Freak, and Mind Freak was sweating because it was a 9-3 half, and Mind Freak somehow pieced together, and then I think it was Ancient the map afterwards. I'm trying to think it was, and to be fair, Mind Freak did some gnarly shots to put him in the bin, but it was just nothing. It was just this little yelp as B&K and both Mind Freak walked over them pretty much.
Yeah. I don't know if that's just stamina or the team by that time they're being figured out and it just rolls over into the next map. I'm not sure. I haven't played them in this version. But I don't know. They're capable players. There's players on that side that could definitely put up big numbers. It's just there's a lot of good teams this series. This second series has pulled in a really hard. Like even I think we could struggle if we don't keep it up. So you want
to talk about
it's going to be hard for Mantra. Oh man,
do you want to talk about that?
Well. I'll happily talk about it.
Okay, KZG. Let's talk about the next series, the one I casted, KZG v DXA, where KZG won 2-0. On both Nuke and Vertigo. Probably the only Vertigo that's been played so far in this league. I think it has been the only one. KZG on Nuke against DXA in particular. I it was just slightly cleaner. I'm trying to see the nuke scores here. Like DXA did get a 7.5.5, but just KZG's CT side, it just shut everyone out. Like you guys just couldn't get in. You wouldn't even, like in some rounds, you wouldn't even get plants.
No. It's not something we've played with this new lineup. It's not. We haven't played nuke at all.
Yeah.
But we're all capable. So there's not a big excuse there, but it showed. You know, that's why we still got 10 rounds, but it obviously showed we weren't ready. And I mean, you've got to take, if you took 10 kills off of a state, it would have been OT and or maybe the other way. So a state was on one, you know. 30 dropping 30s on any game is going to make it hard for the other team to win. So yeah.
James had a bit of a stinker as well, so that didn't help either. It was like basically
I didn't want to say that out loud, but yes.
Yeah, you got to say it out loud that he didn't have a good day because he didn't. He had a pretty terrible day on the stats.
What you were saying on the day, I did hear what you said. You know, where you were saying both four players of everyone else between it was James and Estate was the difference. You know, and I agree with you. I agree with what you said. Ruffle always puts up big numbers, and when he doesn't perform, it hurts us. You know, so. But I can't rely on Ruffleco every single time. So, you know.
Oh, I always say this in particular, like, you know, when teams have, like, players have bad games. I remember Ryan, on one of the NA teams, he didn't get a single kill until, like, the 21st round on CSGO. There was, like, a huge Bronx cheer when he got it. Because he was, like, he didn't even have a single assist either. He was, like, 0-14.
The reason why... Yeah. Sorry, you go.
His team still won the game in the end, but he was 0-14.
The reason why I've always wanted James on my team is because I once saw him have a very big night sitting under the table at Bris Vegas and then drop 30 on us. Someone handed him a Red Bull. He woke up, slapped himself in the face and dropped 30. This man can play underwater, you know, so if he has a bad game, I give him a lot of I give him a lot of free time because he always puts up a huge effort. So when he's having a bad one, I don't normally give him too much shit over it. If it's consistently bad, I'll obviously.
Well, let's talk about Let's talk about Vertigo in particular. And well, KZG took you out to the cleaners, and I'm just going to say I think Mingovi's making this a secret map pick, okay? Because that was a specialist taking a part there, to be honest, with what they were doing to you guys.
It was a little dirty, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a little dirty. I think there was a bit of a ploy there. They had a plan for that. They obviously knew we'd scrimmed on it recently, but yeah, it's
and also not to mention as well,
I haven't got anything to say about that.
Jinxie just show-stopped so much. Like, I use the term show-stopping is when they just take out your star player without them letting to do anything. And he stopped like was it 2 or 3 clutches from Lucas. He was the one that traded Lucas out. And he was just show-stopping everywhere, whether it was A, whether it was B, because he plays B support when I interviewed him. He was just shutting you guys out of the trades and whatnot. Like, when you guys, like, seemingly had a chance, it was just the Jinxie wall, basically.
I've been lucky enough to meet Jinxie a couple of times, and when Jinxie wants it, Jinxie's nuts, and Jinxie wants it at the moment. Like, just every game he plays, he puts in 110. He may not get the kills, like sometimes he has bad games, but you can still see the 110%. Like, even if the aim's off, he's putting in the effort. I think that's that's a big pickup, big underrated pickup for KZG. I rate Jinxie very high.
You know what reminds me of Jinxie in particular, when they were playing Arcade, is when the Void 1v4, okay, and he pulled out the grenade in front of doors, and the smoke went away, and Void like just took him out. I'm just like, oh. He was talking about it. He said he feels like I feel like he had a complete game. He had 22 kills, 7 assists, or was it 9 assists and 2 flash assists. And he's like, I made 3 mistakes here and there, but I didn't get punished for it. And I'm like, bro, like 3 mistakes in a game where you perform like that, pretty forgivable, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. But yeah, we, like Kraymon said, we got farmed. We got to get better at Vertigo.
Yep.
There's a lot of change to Vertigo. We sort of just balls to the walled it, thinking that we could use what Ruffleco amazing plays.
Yeah.
But there's a bit more to work on that Vertigo now with the changes.
Oh, it's definitely because A is so open, like both defensively and offensively, and holding A side is just like, please pray we've got the right angle. So you got to look under ramp just in case they flank you. You got to look at middle just in case they flank you too.
Yeah.
Hell, now Skybridge, as they call it. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you can split B from A. It's crazy.
yeah,
It's a totally new map. So
yeah. Maybe they should have a slide down so you can rotate back to B as well.
how cool would that be? Snakes and ladders style, man. Get
Yeah.
that in there.
Now we got Eddie in here, okay, and we know what we're
Yeah.
about to talk
Let's
about
go. Let's
next.
do it.
The Art
Let's
of
do it.
War,
Arena rejects.
the Arena region. I mean, no, it's Art of War, okay. Two
Yeah. Yeah. Out
nothing
of war.
over Rooster. And I'm gonna say this puts them box seat into trying to get a playoff spot if they beat BNK 2-0. I reckon like they will be in the playoffs, second or third if they do the same to BNK.
Yeah. If they can do the same to BNK, they're in. And
Yep.
I've talked about this a lot because I got a lot of time for this team. I love Eddie. I love my old boys. I think this team is capable of top three. You know, as long as Eddie can keep the ship steered and get your players back from China, because I believe they play a 140 ping or something. Someone did, but and get Jimmy back, talk him back into it. But that crack team, like absolute nutter team, especially when they can all speak Mandarin to each other. Sorry, Eddie, I don't know if you speak Mandarin, but let them do their thing because they play so much better.
Yeah.
But I got so much time for that roster. And I would say that they could easily take a top three in this current climate for this series. They're coming in real quick.
Yeah,
you know, the Neo, as much as Neo is Neo, and we have a love-hate relationship. I love the guy to death, but he pisses me off to no end. Crack player, always has been, brings good players around him, and then Eddie on top, you know, is just nuts. You've got the dream SEA team with Eddie and Neo complementing it. It's a massive team. It's a team to be scared of. If you're not scared of this team, and you're not ready to you need to VOD review this team because they're going to play a little bit differently and they're going to cause a lot of pain.
Yeah, oh, definitely, because like that Terry and Banana duo is absolutely scary. Like it's the most scariest duo I've seen because they trade off each other very well. And they also work with each other really, really well as well. Now, I'm going to go with a big call Australian Naff and Twists there, by the way. Okay, future, you're going to see those guys. They're going to be, you know, big cast going to be like, is that Naff and Twists? No, it's Terry and Banana, mate.
That's it. I mean, called PGL hackers in SEA, mate. Yeah. That's an honor in itself.
To be fair, that one's a weird one. I don't want to touch on that in particular. That was just everyone was throwing accusations everywhere. I liked how someone said, oh, you know, there wasn't many accusations. Like, bro, I'm in the server, the Discord server, looking at support. They're coming everywhere, bro.
It's coming from everywhere, man. I was in the casting channels, in the admin channels, everywhere it was coming from. But let's go back against Rooster, right? Let's go back against Rooster. The big thing I want, you know, obviously the Rooster team wasn't the full side. Like let's point that out straight away.
Yep.
Nedic's gone, and then you had the coaching, I believe. So who was it?
JCG.
Yeah. So you know, I'm not taking anything away from it though. Still a very capable team. But Neo, OT Esports, Mirage, you are not winning as soon as you take it to OT. You know, Rooster knew they weren't winning as soon as they took that game to OT. That team does not stop when they hit OTs. I think they had a track record of like 27-1 or something when I had them. You know, a variation of that team. So, Oath's in here as well. They're all coming to listen.
Yeah.
But a lot of respect for that team, but to take the second map as well, just put the icing on the cake, didn't it? You know, and quite convincingly. So,
I think that's going to annoy Rooster quite a lot. I think they were missing Danger there. Danger is like, he's like under the radar, their clutch map, because he can pull out so many clutches. Well, not so many, but he can pull out clutches in like unfavorable scenarios. You saw that 1v3 at DreamHack where he pulled that 1v3 against MIBI out of all teams. Like, that's a tough team to pull out a 1v3 because they're really good themselves. You got Insane, you got Bronson, you got Safe and whatnot. And he pulls out a very good 1v3 on Vertigo against them. I think they missed Danger here. I reckon if they had Danger in the team, it could have been 2-0 Roosters way very easily.
Oh, very easily. I definitely think you're right there. You know, having two big impact players away that night hurt, but I'm not going to take too much away from Art of War because being an open, you know, not being together along, playing mostly open teams, that was a good effort as well. But Rooster on notice at the moment, you know, they're on notice.
I think I'm being a bit unfair to JCG as well because JCG came into play for Rooster when the bans came in. So he came with
Yeah.
Sparta, JCG, and for some reason I forget the third player, Deckney, that's right. And he played pretty well. He was like very, very good at clutching, kind of similar to Danger, but not
Mhm.
on a level that Danger was, on like trying to stop and trying to salvage rounds, basically.
Yeah. Has he played in a while though?
Nah, this was about, was it 2 years? It should have been a year and a half
Two or
ago.
three.
It
Okay.
was
Okay.
before Netic and ADK got unbanned.
Ah, okay. Yeah, there was a while back. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that roster. I'm just
Yeah.
looking it up now. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Because they like this is the hard part because they replaced Deckney obviously because Deckney was a bit of a weak link. He was getting in one game in
Yeah.
particular he got bullied on Dust 2 site where they just hit B non-stop and just one tapped him. It was against
I
Encore.
remember that. It was a road chain. Yeah. It was just a
Yeah,
train on
yeah, they
him.
just non-stop hit his site, and he couldn't do anything. Like just watching Licky, Hazard, Sterling, just always just going in on him for B split, and
Yeah.
they couldn't do much in the end. But JCG and Spudrecker was really hard. It's like which one do you replace? Because Spudrecker was very good at utility, but JCG is very good in the pressure scenarios. But I think that's enough for ECL. We don't have enough. We don't have any ECL
Yep.
for a week and a half. Next week we've got the Atlanta
Yeah.
qualies.
That's right.
Yep. Let's go on to the Esports World Cup. So we got the
Sure.
BO3s finally. Obviously, FlyQuest got eliminated in the BO1s. I still have my reservations about those BO1s. I think that's very, very unfair because, like, what happened was that Furio got through to BO1s and also Complexity lost in the BO1s. And this is why I detest BO1s, is that some of these good teams got kicked out, basically, because of, the mercy for BO1.
Yeah, I can't understand why we've gone so heavily into best of ones since we're now 13 rounds, or Emma, and we really shouldn't be going this way. It was a knee-jerk reaction at the end of CS:GO to try and speed up the schedule,
Yep.
but they really need to reevaluate again because now you're getting 25 minutes for a game in most cases.
Mhm.
So lucky to get an hour of gameplay
Yep.
in a gauntlet, and not being able to see everyone. You
Yeah.
can't watch every game. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for the people. It doesn't work for the players, and it doesn't work for the tournaments themselves. It just shouldn't be done.
And also, not to mention as well, it was done on 15 teams of Zhizhao Hao, literally in the lower bracket.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the fix is though. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's talks of all different types. There's the round robin. Like you look at ECL for example across the globe. It has a different format in every country, even NADU.
Yep.
So ESWC doesn't really have anything to go off at the moment because the standards there is none. So I think everyone needs to come together and start figuring it out because it's starting to get a bit weird.
Yeah.
When we got rid of best of fives, we now really need them again. And now we've gone down heavy best of one. All the qualifiers are best of one.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And you see it across the globe, not just OCE. You see it. Like look at this in the top level tournament. Complexity were out and they had a chance.
Yeah.
Out the door. See you later. FlyQuest could have had a good run, but they didn't. And they got punished for it, and it feels like a punishment. That's the problem.
Yep. Let's talk about the games overall. Okay, I don't want to dig too much into the format. I've written an article about it. I've been into it, being like, "Come on, this is terrible." But anyways, G2 over Spirits. Okay, that was one of the games after the gauntlet. This was the biggest upset of the tournament. Okay, people weren't suspecting G2 to beat Spirit.
No, I didn't expect G2 to beat Spirit, I'll be honest.
And in the fashion that they did on the third map, and then particularly the map that Malbs just literally ran into B and killed all three of them, even under flashes and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, Malb's got something to prove, and is proving it quite well, even through to the grand final. But that team just feels comfortable again. No, G2 have gone through such a rocky place with all of the bullshit, and it just feels smooth again. I think maybe they just all got so frustrated that they're now just chilling, but they felt they looked comfortable. And when G2's comfortable, they make it to grand finals, and that's what they did.
Also, it's the first time ever that Monacy has been on the bottom of the scoreboard for G2.
I know, right? But when the numbers that they're putting up are pretty impressive, that's not bad, is it? When your AWP is dropping a 1.04 and is at the bottom, you got to be okay with that.
Yeah, this is going to the next.
And
Yep.
yeah, I was going to say, and Monacy's probably burning out too. Like a lot of back-to-back games, a lot of politics, a lot of
Yeah.
shit. So yeah, he will start to slow down later in this year. He's due for a slowdown. So
Yeah, I was gonna say he's been carrying that team for a very long time. He's bound for his
he has, he
shoulders to
has.
break basically. Now for the next
Yep.
upset, but then again, it's not really an upset because Vitality has been burning out quite a bit. Was VP taking down
Yeah.
Vitality 2-1, and not just like the first map, VP lost their map pick of Mirage, but then they just completely dominated them. This is an interesting thing for me. I don't understand why Vitality picked into Inferno into a CIS team.
Uh, uh, yep. You go.
I just don't understand it. I feel like if you're picking Inferno into a CIS team or an Asian team, you're asking for trouble. Like,
You are, and I don't know if this was just a straight out, hey guys, we just want to beat you and punish you. It didn't work. It
yeah.
didn't work out. But Vitality are done. Like I've followed a lot of these players for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
There's three alone that are ready to put their mouses up. And when you've got someone like Norbert, Electronic and Fame who can turn on, and then Jame, I haven't seen turn on for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
to have Jame and Norbert just turn on, the oldies aren't going to aren't going to keep up. And that's
Yeah.
the problem with teams that have older players is they will flourish when other teams aren't having full impact teams. But
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they've got 5 full impact players, they get pushed out of the top 8
Yeah.
very quickly.
I,
And we're seeing that with Vitality.
like I say, the person I rate overall in that team, particularly is Flit. Flit gets a lot of information, but not only does he get a lot of information, he gets a lot of damage as well. Zawu had a
Yeah.
pretty good series. It was just Apex and Mezzy. Like I say, really off for Mezzy in particular. Had an awful series.
They're just playing so bad. So bad.
Uh,
And Norbert turning on too. Like
yep.
Norbert has been playing solid lately. I'm really impressed with how Norbert plays lately.
Yeah, I
I think
remember.
VP are going to sit pretty high in the ladder for the rest of the year.
I remember back in the day when Norbert had a whinge on Twitter about Harvey buying 4 AWPs against him. Like Harvey force bought 4 AWPs and they won the round. Like it was an end and a half, so they had a lot of money. So they bought 4 AWPs and they killed they won a round against the run of play. And Norbert got so mad because Harvey went on to win afterwards. So he got super tilted over it, but it was so funny. Now,
but then, sorry, I just want to lead on to that. VP to then lose so badly to G2.
yeah,
Like how can you beat someone like Vitality, who are a pretty good team, who can take out teams like G2, and then just get absolutely stood on?
nobody played
So,
well. Norbert, Fame, Flip, nobody played well in this roster.
it's
Nico,
like they had a bad curry that night because
yeah,
they just turned into a totally different team.
Nico just absolutely just decimated them as well. Like none of the rifles were on in particular. With VP in
Yeah.
particular, it's good that Electronic is slotted in a team. I always get nervous when Electronic gets slotted in a team in particular because, like, some of the times it just like the team performs worse because he's in it, and I've no idea why.
Yeah.
Because Electronic is a good player, but that's why I wasn't too hyped when he went to Virtus Pro because I'm just like, obviously Virtus Pro is one of my favorite teams. I'm just like,
Mm.
I'm not sure how this is going to end up because he went to Cloud9 as an IGL, and obviously he was a blade led IGL, so it didn't
Yeah.
the RGL didn't work well on Cloud9 and they put Boomich in the end. And when he was in Na'Vi, like, him and Simple were one of the best duos, but it eventually faded away as well.
Exactly. I don't know if it's attitude or what, but
Yeah.
Electronic seems to just have a curse behind him out
Yep.
behind the scenes.
Yep.
And as soon as he pisses off the wrong people, that's it. The team's done.
Yep. Now let's speed run through the other set of games of quarterfinals. We have
Yep.
Mouse v Furia. I'm pretty impressed with how close Furia got in this game in particular. Because I write Furia off a lot because
So do I.
Because I see Fallen, Cello, and it's just like, why do you have Fallen in the roster? Because this is when they kicked out Art. It's like, why are you bringing Fallen in the roster if you already got Art as your IGL? Like, you just pick up any young AWPer in the Brazilian scene and go with it.
Yeah.
Stop doing this stuff. Like, they got rid of Safe, for example, who's now flourishing in MIBR. And, however, this team
Look,
did very well against Mouse in particular. Like, I didn't expect Fury to even get a map, to be honest.
Fallen is an actual friend of mine.
Yeah.
I've known him for a lot of years. So I'm not going to say anything bad just in case it comes back to hit me. But that team
Yeah.
that team surprises me constantly. Like I write them off at every step of the way, and they just keep coming back. And it doesn't matter what changes they seem to make. They always sitting in that sort of. They always seem to make that fourth, fifth, sixth place in every tournament and
Yeah.
surprise everyone. So we shouldn't be surprised by now, but they're still consistent. They're just not the best, but they're consistent.
I say overall, adding Skulls to the roster has helped, and Skulls has performed a lot better in that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
And also as well, I think Skulls was like a symptom of that entire Liquid roster. He was a representative of it. I thought the same as well. I saw analysts going after Skulls, he's a problem, stuff like that, and I'm just like, nah, it's a team environment issue. Like I think it was Maui, for example, like bro, like stop focusing on Skulls. It's 100% a team environment issue because like nothing else is working either.
No, that's right. Just nothing was working.
Yep.
And Skulls has proven himself now. That put him in the right team and he can perform.
Yep. And also, not to mention as well, Jimfan had to do a big carry for Mouse there, plus 33 across the series.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah. And yeah, next up we're going to go to Na'Vi v FaZe. This is like, I cannot believe this happened. I cannot believe FaZe have lost 2 close and grindy games to Na'Vi.
I know. I can't believe it. Like, FaZe, I mean, is it the twist effect? I don't know. I think he was a bit more consistent on that roster.
Yeah.
But they're just losing their spark again. Like they nearly disbanded a couple years ago with this similar roster.
Yeah.
Well, this core at least. I think they're just burning out. They're taking on every tournament they can. They're a partner team. I think they're just going through that phase that funnily enough, phase that they normally do. But it's just a phase, It's it's that lull of having those top players playing together constantly all the time. Brokey's a bit tired. Carrigan, I mean,
yeah, Brokey lost all his hair, mate. He lost all his hair. He's that tired.
Brokey's lost his hair. That's right. And then I'm not rating Rops at the moment, I'll be honest. I think he's got one too many Rolexes on his watch, on his wrist. I'm not really feeling.
Did he buy Taz's Mercedes?
I believe. Oh, who knows? I don't know. But look, I just don't see someone who is such a big player, has put up such big numbers over the years, is just not performing on FaZe at the moment.
I think that sums it up. Rob's just had a horrible series.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll be consistent on the way through. Like I think it could be just a down period.
You put anyone else in that roster in Rops' spot this series, just this tournament, and they probably made it to grand final. I still think they lose, but they probably made it to grand final.
Also, as well, not to mention Bit and Wonderful performed extremely well. And I'm going to say, Bit has these tournaments where he just pops up and destroys people. That's one of these tournaments.
Yeah. Bit just shows up. JL just shows up. He didn't really, but he's consistent. And Wonderful is just wonderful. I got so much. I love Wonderful. I love watching Wonderful play. He's like he glides through the air. Yeah, feels smooth. Always a treat to watch. See Wonderful on especially on Na'Vi. Fits well for Wonderful.
You know the funniest part with Wonderful in particular? He's the only rated top 20 player in HLTV rankings for Na'Vi. No one else is top 20. Really? Yeah. That's why
I'm shocked at that, to be honest.
That's why all these analysts in particular just say it's a fluke run or anything like that particular. And because like this team don't like you look on paper, they're obviously not being malicious or anything like that to Na'Vi. You look on paper, Wonderful's the only good player in that team, and this team's won a major. Like,
look on paper they look like shit, but then you look at that grand final with G2, and Alec was putting up numbers, and you don't normally see that. Like he pulled up. So I think they're going to do well.
Yep. Let's get back to the semi-final against Mouse, okay? What a horrific start for Na'Vi.
That was disgusting. I mean, how do you lose 13-1 and then come back? How do you reverse sweep from a 13-1? Like, it was disgusting. I'm just looking at the stats now. It was just disgusting. Like, there's nothing good to say about that map other than Mouse played amazingly. and Navi didn't even enter the server.
Yeah. Navi's got 0015.
Oh,
I can say
it's a joke of a stat.
you got to give credit. I gotta say right now to Blade and LXCB, okay? Because obviously this is their roster and their system in particular. To just be like, guys,
Yep.
yeah, Dust 2, fuck it. We're going to come back with a Nuke and Mirage.
I I honestly think that conversation happened. I reckon
Yeah.
they just said, "Look, we don't play Dust 2. Just do what you can." And halfway through, they probably just went, "GG, go next."
Yeah. Also,
Don't waste your energy.
Also, I've got to say as well, their Nuke game, like, they got to realize at this point it was 6-6 on Nuke at half time.
Yep.
And that's panic stations because you're going to go onto a T side. Yeah. They win 7 rounds and they convert it 13-8. They only give Mouse 2 rounds.
I know. And why? I mean, they obviously knew. They obviously knew they were strong on Nuke, and Mouse definitely weren't. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just a complete switch, wasn't it? It was just a mirror. Yeah. To go from 13-1 to just being sort of nothing.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is that both Emir and JL just really lit up there. And I know Emir gets criticized a lot because they're like, Emir was brought in to be their star aimer because he was very, very good at Game of Legion. And now he's not that. But at the same time, I still think he's an important part of this team because they can switch JL to be the main aimer and Emir be a bit of support. But I think on this map, Emir's the entry was the main catalyst of this Nuke comeback. If you get that entry kill in particular, you can just disorient a site altogether. I mean, let's just say you go hunt Squeaky, which many teams don't do in particular. But if you get that initial pick and do a bit of damage to that second player, you could get onto A very quickly because the remaining A players, one could be at Silo or Silo or Mini, and the other one will be coming to rotating Heaven.
Yeah.
And they can't cover all that distance. If they look the wrong way, they could be getting taken out from the side.
No, and I think that's what was happening to Mouse. Like, they spent so much time on D2 that they were playing more standardized strats on the other 2 maps. Like, they were playing just your double peaks, flash in peaks. Nothing was synced. Like, it seemed a bit scrambled and lost. And Na'Vi just sat back and watched. They literally just sat back and waited until Mouse ran into the crosshairs, and it just worked. There was literally nothing to talk about when it comes to Mouse, how they played those second 2 maps, really.
Yeah.
Especially because, like you say, I am. How does he like it pronounced? I always said Emir. Emir stepped up, which hasn't happened much in recent times. You had Wonderful just throwing in kill after kill again, and then having Bit and JL just backing up those frags is all you need from Na'Vi when a team like Mouse are just throwing their bodies at you instead of bullets. And that's what was happening. I don't know how you can go from such a convincing win to just shooting blanks. It was a shock. It was a bit of an upset at the end. Like, I expected Na'Vi to win, but not like that.
I was going to say, you must be the crowd. The crowd must have reappeared, and Mouse like, oh no, it's a crowd. Ah!
Oh my god, I can't shoot. There's a camera.
No, I don't think it was that. But yeah, I think Na'Vi, great resiliency overall. And this gets to our grand final. Obviously, Na'Vi winning 2-1. And I've got to say, they did the same thing on Nuke, but this time they were on the T side and they had a flawless CT side on the second map.
Yeah. Look, I knew GT were going to lose as soon as that ancient game went OT. They were struggling to keep keep that game alive, and G2 put in every possible effort they could to make it there. And as soon as I saw it was Nuke, it was over. As soon as because I hadn't seen the line, like I just watched it through.
Yeah.
And as soon as they said to me it was Nuke from the previous games and seeing what they did to Mouse and etc., I was just like, it's done, it's over. And then Inferno is a Na'Vi map. They've traditionally played Na'Vi. They've played it well. So I don't know what. I was excited because G2 that first map was so much fun to watch. It had so much in it, but as soon as I saw it was that close, I was really worried, and it sort of played out exactly what I thought. I honestly thought it just to be the 2-0 to Na'Vi. I really did, but as soon as I saw G2 perform that way, I was excited, but not excited because I knew Nuke was coming. And there's no one else really putting up the numbers on Nuke against Navi other than maybe FaZe.
Yeah. I'd say,
Out of those teams, anyway.
I'd say overall with G2 and Inferno, I mean, 90 rounds, like allowing that in when Inferno's, I feel like Inferno's CT favored in AU particularly.
Yeah.
Allowing 90 rounds, especially Inferno feels like a CT sided map, given the chokehold on Banana, it's just such a tough way to get back from. Like, a lot of people, particularly, I was looking at the Discords and whatnot, they're really surprised that Navi were like, up 11. I think they were up 11-6 at one point. Or was it 11-4?
Yeah, they were, 11-6.
11-6. And they just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
They couldn't believe it. They're like, Navi's, they're going to win this. Like, obviously, because a lot of people in the background, the chatter, the narrative has been that Navi's major win was a fluke. So everyone's like got this, Navi's just a lucky team. I feel like, in particular, when anyone says it's a fluke, it's a negative connotation, which is true. But like, if anyone wants to ever say a positive connotation for Navi, just say they're overachieving, because they are overachieving with that roster.
They're overachieving. They're pulling big numbers. I mean, let's be honest. Ever since JL had his headband touched by Wonder, there's been a good run for them. So anyone who wants to be touched by Wonder, just reach out.
They didn't do well at IM Sydney. They didn't even get to the stage, mate.
That's true. I just wanted people to annoy Wonder. Damn it.
Yeah, he still got the headband. I heard he didn't give it back to JL. He says it's mine now. Okay.
Yeah, I heard that he quit at that moment and ran out the stadium. Ran out the studio. He keeps it under his pillow.
He got another headband now. It's like super glued on. He can't take it off. Anyways, let's get to our next topic. Okay, we spent a lot.
All right.
We'll get to our next topic, which is like the Razer Snap Tap and the rapid fire modes on their keyboards. So if you guys don't know, Razer got a Huntsman V3, which has this Snap Tap, which makes not auto strafing, which makes counter strafing a lot easier to do, a lot automated to do in particular. And a lot of people have been crying foul for this because the null binds in particular that allows this sort of thing to be counter strafing perfectly have been banned. Like, you can't use them in tournaments.
Yeah, so, well, technically, so ESL have said they're going to allow this keyboard, right?
Yeah.
That's the consensus I last heard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, traditionally the D-tick thing and the strafing, the script that's out there, that's free, the same one they're using, has been banned from most events. I think Blast allowed it, is what I read.
Yeah.
You might know more than me.
I don't know, but Blast's rule set, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Other tournaments still allow it. ESL has traditionally not, but now they've ruled that they're allowing this keyboard. Do they now allow that script to be used as well? I don't know. That's, to me, it's either none or all.
Yeah.
It's got to be fair for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, is ESL in bed with Razer? Like, there's got to be questions asked.
Yeah.
But I mean, personally, I think ban it. I think keyboards, mice, and monitors shouldn't be used in that way. And anti-cheats need to catch up, or companies that make gaming gear with AI stuff in it, or in this case, a macro script really, with a little bit of tech. They need to have a way that it can be turned off clearly and concisely if it's going to be used in tournaments, and can be clearly turned off from the server.
Yeah, I'd say overall, like, in particular, because this conversation, it isn't the first time that any gaming scene has had this conversation. It's been an issue in WoW. It's been an issue in speedrunning with like consoles and whatnot as well. And I agree with you as well. Like, I think SnapTab, of course, makes counter strafing, which is very important in CS. Like, very, very important.
Yeah.
It automates it, and it's starting to take away a lot of the human aspect of the game altogether. Like, where you don't have to have, a high skill level. You can just have a lot of the things just do it for you.
Well, that's right. You are essentially taking away a small skill set by doing this. This is a small example, I guess, being that counter strafing's pretty standard in CS. When I tried it myself, I tried the script. I haven't got the keyboard. I find it difficult because you've got to learn something new. Like, I'm trying to counteract what I've done for the last 23 years. So if you're someone new into the scene and you're being brought up on this is dangerous now. I think it's more of a watch this space in 5 years for these young players coming up, if they're given these tools and can become experts at them. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference at, say, an international next week. but I definitely think it will start to really cause some issues down the track. It allows for side loading as well. That keyboard can now side load, so they're going to have to be more aware of it in tournaments.
What's side
It's like
loading?
basically side loading is like ducky script. So basically, you can side load key presses into a keyboard and store it. So it's still a HID compliant. So when you plug a keyboard in, it's a HID compliant keyboard. It's not a USB device.
Yeah.
So you're allowing 128 kilobits to now be stored inside that keyboard.
Yeah.
So you could sideload anything into it.
Okay.
And I've seen duckies be used for all sorts of hacking, not just in CS or gaming, but in other things.
Yeah.
But when we talk gaming, you could actually use that keyboard to sideload hacks now. So no need for Word.exe anymore. Watch this space.
Excel.exe is back, mate.
Or in Valorant, it was Netflix.exe, I heard.
Oh, yeah, that's what I heard as well. Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, watch this space, because by allowing this keyboard to start off with, tournament organizers are going to get caught out, because there'll be another Forsaken moment when a young player comes through and works out how to beat the system with a bit of scripting knowledge.
Overall, I think a lot of the admins do check the gear, and I reckon it'll just be, in my opinion, I don't think it'll happen at a main event. It'll just be before a main event that scandal will come out for a player.
Yeah.
Because admins do check it. I dislike a lot of people who are like, oh, admins don't check keyboards and mice and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, they do. They make sure that.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. But when you've got so many keys on a keyboard, if you've got a triple press on the 9 numpad key to activate a hack that's sitting stored in the thing, you can't check for that as an admin. So it's easier when it's just keyboard, when it's a normal keyboard and normal mouse, because it has to be slightly modified. Whereas now it doesn't have to be modified. So it is going to make a bit of a grey area, I think. Someone will get caught out. I give it 6 months, and there'll be an interesting article come out.
Which one do you think is the bigger issue? Is it the rapid fire one, or is it the snap tap? I feel like the rapid fire one is just different sort of style of key pressing. But the snap tap just automatic skill.
Yeah, snap tap's automatic skill, so that's giving that floor skill floor is being pulled down. Yep. So that's going to bring more players up, which is problematic if they're relying on a piece of equipment to do that.
Yeah.
But it's also just going to the rapid fire. I don't think is a big issue, because you can only shoot so fast. It's going to probably help in the pistol rounds, maybe a Tech 9 round, but it's easily seen. I believe if you go a certain speed, you're going to get pinged by the server anyway.
Yeah.
Because you'll go past the sub-tick rate.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be useful when you're at a competitive. You're trying to be the most accurate you are. You're not going to use a rapid fire script. Unless it's in a very weird scenario, I think. So I don't think it'll be applied to FPS as much.
Yeah, I think overall in particular. So basically, I'll go through the different deals that scenes had. So we'll go through speedrunning. So speedrunning has TAS. So if you guys don't know what TAS is tool assisted. So you can basically use tools to do certain things, or do certain jumps, or hit certain angles. Basically, TAS is used a lot. I think it was infamous in Super Mario 64. So what they do to Super Mario 64, they use TAS a lot to find out new tricks, and then they try to set it up. They've actually done a program, okay? This is why anytime someone goes oh, no one will ever do this, I'm like, you've never seen speedrunners, okay? So what they did, they created a program in Super Mario 64 on how to do, Rainbow Ride? Have you ever played it?
I have, yes.
Yeah, to start at the top of the building. They did a script, the TAS, without using the carpet to collect it, and what they had to do that, okay? This guy made a program testing out 7,000 different scenarios and angles, and then found one a human could realistically do and set up, okay? Yeah. And okay, so this is what they use TAS for. But you can't use TAS in the actual run. It's automatically disqualified. They've banned it altogether.
This is the same. Yeah, this is the same as Trackmania as well.
Yeah. And they basically said, it's really easy to tell if something's tool assisted and something isn't, because you know what a human can't do. Let's say for example, you nail all your in Mario 64, there's wall jumps. If you nail all your wall jumps at a certain ratio, they're gonna catch you out, because they're that's not humanly possible for you to be that consistent.
Yeah, or the stair jump. If you're getting that consistently up, the stair jump on,
or you're trying incredibly risky tricks and being 100% successful in every single one. They can tell what a TAS run is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the other side as well, which is WoW. Okay, so WoW add-ons was a big thing. So the biggest issue they had was back in Wrath of Lich King, where there was an add-on called AVR. So what AVR did is that WoW has a lot of mechanics and whatnot. Like, for example, there's this boss called Professor Putricide in WoW, in Heroic. And in Heroic mode, he passes a disease to one player, and you must pass that disease onto another player as the dots or damage over time increases every second. But to pass it to the other player, you have to run over them to pass it to them.
Okay.
But if you keep, like, every time you receive a disease and pass it over, you get 100% damage debuff. So if it goes back on you, you get still more damage. But what this did, it drew on your screen the radius of when you could spread it, and also a time on every single tick. Okay? And it also drew on your screen as well. So Sindra Ghost is another boss, but you had to, like, spread out your ice tombs so you didn't double freeze people and you didn't do double damage because they were important for a mechanic. And they also drew out how big your ice tombs would be and how to make sure you guys don't collide with each other either. And it used to just play the game for you, okay? And WoW broke that add-on. Blizzard deliberately broke that add-on, so we could not feature at all. And they were being afraid that the add-ons were being used to play the game. And that's what I'm afraid here, is that people will be using the keyboard to play the game, not actually human skill.
Yeah.
And
no, that's right. And I mean, you've got to think of it on the flip side as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing it's probably good for is doing those the knee speed runs and things like that, where they're using the controllers backwards and stuff to be able to keep up on keyboard and mouse. And also in games like Trackmania and skill-based games where people are now using racing wheels and joysticks. Being able to use something other than an analog keyboard, which is a very rare thing to find, very expensive, is an extra thing to bring back the keyboard and mouse for games where it's traditionally been taken over. So I see it has its place, but then it ruins everything for everyone else. So it's a hard one.
You should have seen with WoW particularly. They backflipped. They allowed a program called Weakorers in, or not programs, add-on. So what Weakorers does, it does a similar thing to AVR, but it doesn't draw on your screen. But it tells you when it ticks. It tells you when your moves come off cooldown. Like, it puts up a little mini like bar, and it also tells you, like, with boss mechanics, like what you have to do and stuff like that. It's basically, you can program a aura or a macro into it, and that's it. And then another thing with WoW, they also had another mod called Decursive. Okay, so Decursive, there's like enemy debuffs that you have cast on you in particular, and you used to be able to just click a frame and just decurse a random person. You didn't have to click anything, you just click the button and just decurse someone, okay? And they broke that add-on as well, because, it was a bit OP. Instead, Decursive became a bit more inventive, and they just put frames of all the players that you could dispel, and use right-click for this dispel and left-click for this dispel. But they were happy with it because there was some skill involved with it. But the big one was the Weakorers, where WoW has had to consistently build their boss fights with mods and add-ons in mind. And it's going to get to that point with a lot of games where, if you allow these keyboards in particular, you have to plan your game or events with the keyboard and mouse in mind that they could enable for players to automate certain things. I know this is obviously a competitive game, not a PvE aspect, kind of like with WoW in particular. No. But that's going to be an issue where players are going to need a keyboard that has snap tap, a mouse that has some aim adjustment or whatever it is, and it's not going to be fun. It's just kind of like a paywall. I could give you another example as well. Back in Yu-Gi-Oh, because I played competitive Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, there was a tournament pack. So if you win a tournament, you got a tournament pack. And there was one card. There was one card in particular called Mechanical Chaser. So back in the days, 1,800 attack was the highest attack, but Mechanical Chaser had 1,850. Okay. So if you won a tournament and got a Mechanical Chaser, it was a super rare card as well. It was just like, well, now your deck's even stronger, and no one else can really compete, because if you want to get a Mechanical Chaser, you have to win the tournament. But if someone else has got a Mechanical Chaser, like, Beatdown was just popular back in the day, where the higher attack monster was the better one. It was just like, there was a huge paywall, basically, what Gump said about the keyboard as well. It's like, it's just a paywall on players.
Yeah, and that's what it is, right? It's an evolutionary step, like it's same with Yu-Gi-Oh with other cards or any game like that. It's an evolutionary step. You bring out a new product, now everyone has to catch up. Everyone's going to whinge about it till everyone catches up. And then in 3 years' time, we'll either never have heard of it again or every keyboard's going to have it. You know, so it's one of those things. Will it take off? Will it not? And do the developers now have to adapt
Yeah.
between the two different types of keyboard.
Hmm.
So I guess it's on the developers, isn't it? At the end
Yeah.
of the day, they're
Yeah.
just playing their game. So
Hmm. I'm gonna say I'm against it personally. I think I'm going to the speedrunning
yeah,
side in
same.
particularly. It's robs the human element of it. Robs the human element of the game. Like inch by inch, if you let it say yes now, it's going to inch by inch creep over and take over, and you're not going to get any of those miracle plays or miracle clutches in particular because some of the players won't fail under pressure because the keyboard's doing it for them.
Yeah, and you're going to end up with where everyone's just as good as each other
Yeah,
because you then have aim assist mice. You'll basically be a tool for the equipment instead of the equipment is your tool at the
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
You'll become the tool for the keyboard and
yeah,
mouse to play, and we don't want to get there.
yeah,
That's not where we want to be.
yeah. And I'm gonna say speedrunning's got it right. Like it still has the place for the tasks, like the tool assisted. Like they
Mm.
like if you ever watched games done quick or anything like that, they have a tool assisted speed run where like they have the thing doing all the cool tricks and whatnot.
Yeah,
It's got a place for that here, but overall, like
there's
just
a place for it in elder games. Yeah,
yeah,
like if you want to work out if someone's cheating too, if their
hmm,
run's legitimate, tool assisted software's been around a long time, and it's
hmm,
extremely important for scenes that look after their own systems. It's the sort of tools that came from the developers, and now people are making their own run, like to be able to work out whether it's a hack or not,
yeah,
or a legit run.
yeah. This
And
is
it's just going to get worse and worse. I don't want to be having some extra piece of software to work out whether some dude did a counter strafe too quickly.
yeah.
Like it's just getting ridiculous at this point.
Also, got to say this is the hardest question, in particular. When you review like a keyboard of an extra feature having too much of an impact, where you become a tool for the equipment, not the other way around. Like that's a hard standard to bury. But I think in this instance, for me, it's because the
Mm,
counter strafing is such a big part of a mechanic of CS2, and that's the part
yeah.
where it's removing the human element and the human skill from the game
Mm.
in particular.
And it's clearly proven. Like I've seen 4 or 5 videos already where
Mhm.
it's clearly proven it's an advantage. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Ban it all. Ban it
Yep.
all.
Yep. I think overall, I think Gumps commented on it being a paywall. Conky commented on being a cheat, and I do agree with Conky on that. I think it is a bit of a cheat. Like it's one of those things. Like if I saw that happening in speedrun and someone had like a bit of aim assist, I'd be like, yeah, mate, that ain't fair. There's a lot of things, stuff like that, and I do agree with it.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Any last comments or anything like that?
No, thank you for having me on, mate. I really appreciate it. Have a bit of a chat,
Oh no, no,
reminisce about the old days. Mm.
I meant the topic, mate.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were kicking me off.
No, no.
Um, no, so no, nothing else on that. I just think it's a dead horse that's will be gone pretty soon.
Hmm. Now, next up, we're going to talk about is managing an esports org. Okay, so obviously you've managed an esports org for a while. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of teams in particular, a lot of organizations in particular, a lot of them are bedroom orgs or just stuff like that as well. Bedroom orgs is a
Mm,
term for like a one man owner in their bedroom, basically. I don't know where the
yeah.
term came from. I think it came from NA because someone was running an
Yeah.
org from the bedroom during COVID. But what are some tips on like setting up like the building blocks of an organization, and what are the common pitfalls that org owners tend to go into?
I mean, the biggest failure I see up front is someone buying a team in the top five and trying to just gamble their way through and become famous. I see that all the time. That's the biggest failure. I won't call people out here. I'm not going to get nasty, but you'll see certain orgs that come through, come out from nowhere. They buy one of the best teams. They're spending, everyone hears they're spending 5 or 6 grand a month. They go overseas, they go nowhere, and then they just go, we're shutting shop and we're broke. And it happens time and time again. And
Mm-hmm.
if I can say anything, if that's what you're getting into esports for, don't even start right now. Step one, don't start, Um, yeah, unless you're a gambler. I mean, if that's your thing, go for it. It's not good odds. Go gamble at the casino if you want to do that.
I can't believe you
But
calling Cloud9 out like this, Monitor.
I know, right? I know. How dare I? But that's number one, right? Like
Yep.
you've got to build a good foundation, and I've been very lucky because I've been in the industry a long time,
Mm-hmm.
so I have a little bit. Even with my gap in time, people have started to realize, okay, he does know a little bit of what he's talking about, so we'll back him. Um, and get good people around you. You know, don't come into this with the attitude of I want to do something for esports and I want to be a part of it. And I mean, 99% of the time, you know, you're washed now, or you're just keen on, never been the best. So you want to facilitate the best. And you've just got to come at it at an angle of you want what's best for the players, but you also need to protect yourself. And reality is a big hit to the face for org owners, because you'll have these opportunities where you'll talk to these big players and you'll talk to these top players and you'll go, I'll do anything to have them on my roster. And then you just ruin yourself. So if I can give my biggest piece of advice I always give to people is start from the bottom. Don't start from the middle, because if you start from the middle, you're expected to keep that up, and it's a lot of money for nothing. So that's my first piece of advice when it comes to starting up an org. You know, you've got to have that passion. You can't worry about the money. You've got to worry about the people and the players.
Yeah. What sort of your main priority, like in an organization? Like, you know, what is the main area that a lot of org owners should really target at the start? Like, you know, is it just getting in a team? Like, is it research? What they should do? Like, say for example, they want to start in CS. Like, what should they do to start a CS team?
I think one, you really need to do your research. That's something I have only been able to get back into the game because of researching so heavily. You know, I make sure I understand the leagues, make sure I understand the players, make sure I understand the prize pools, know what I'm in for, and then I'll go and gauge out teams that, not traditionally in CS, because I've had a long run with Keo and etc.
Yep.
But you know, I'll gauge out teams, and I always look, me personally, and that's not the same. I won't speak for the four owners here, but me personally, I always look at that tier 2 on potentials to move into tier 1, because you're going to get yourself, especially when you're first starting out as an org, you're going to get yourself a team that you can build trust in, you can build your org around, and then if they make it through, that's going to boost you in every way. So it's a win-win for both the players and the org.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I look for. Is I research and I make sure that I understand the game I'm going into and what's involved in a year. You know, I look at a year at least ahead. You know what I'm in for.
Yeah. Any like mentors, in particularly, like, you know, any org owners that, you know, you look up to and try to replicate their standards? And why is it MJ? No, I'm kidding. You go for it.
Definitely not MJ. That boy needs to do a hell of a lot more work when it comes to social media. But I guess I probably it's controversial, but because I don't have a lot of respect for him now, but previously Nadeshot was someone back that I watched a lot. And if we go back to the old days, I've always been a huge Vitality Na'Vi fan. Like, I've watched them from day dot. So I've followed their coaches, their orgs, you know, the people around that too. So I sort of look at the teams that are just, you know, Sprout was another big one I watched for a long time. You know, they just died over the years. But back in the day, they were doing exactly what I loved, you know, that academy, into pro, grassroots. So, yeah, they're the sort of teams I've always looked up to. You know, Navi's always been into the big academies as well. So I've always looked at teams that, and I take a lot of guidance from sports as well. You know, I used to be a president of a rugby league team. I've had a lot of stuff back there, so I take a lot of that learning and bring it into esports, because it is very much hand in hand.
Is it kind of like, you know, I gotta say with grassroots in particular, is it kind of like, you know, with managing organizations, you're just managing a sports club, even though it isn't like sports as per se, but you're just managing a sports club?
No, I'd say running grassroots, especially when I first started out with those guys before they matured, and having multiple Valorant teams, etc. on SGN, it was just like running a junior rugby league club with under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, you know, just kids running around everywhere, causing mayhem. and you learn from that very quickly how much you can take on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very similar. You've got to find sponsors, you've got to find merch, you've got to find revenue. There's no difference
Yeah.
between owning a sports club or an esports team.
Is it any different, like, approaching as an esports club, right, and a rugby club on, like, trying to get sponsorships? Like, for example, for a rugby club, you go to, like, the local McDonald's and get vouchers and stuff like that. Is it kind of different for an esports team or org?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. Like traditionally you'd go to the Samsungs, the BenQs, all that back in the day.
Mm.
Obviously, they've changed that model quite heavily, and I'm not going to go into that,
Yeah.
like the sponsor side, but
It's more of a different system
the,
now
the
these days. It's just
it's a different
recognizing.
system now. Yeah, yeah, it's recognizing that system, and we've got New York Slice and MSI, an internet company, just because they back esports, not because they want to make profit or promotion out of esports.
Hmm.
They just love esports, So you will find the traditional sponsors that just like what you're into and
Hmm.
will sponsor you. You don't have to always chase the big four.
Who's New York Slice? And do they do pizza? Like, I'm interested in a New
Yeah,
York Slice of pepperoni.
they're a pizza company in Queensland, so they do the Lang Park and all the big stadiums, the Gabba,
Ooh,
etc.
that's good.
Um, so they hook us up with pizzas and a bit of funding here and there if we need it.
Is I gotta say, like, I haven't gone to New York, and anyways, this is irrelevant to this. How do you delegate, like, appropriate, like, what areas do you think they're most important to delegate, and what sort of qualities you look in those delegations, like, for example, social media.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different for us because we have four owners that are very good at in their own
Yep.
sections. So
Mm-hmm.
traditionally, we all have our own head of team. So Glitches Valorant, Customs is Apex, Adams League, and Apex and Trackmania. Those two do as well. I love my PUBG. Um, but then when it comes down to the other stuff, like just team management, we do our own team management as owners.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hands on, because we enjoy that. We could
Yep.
just pass it down, but we enjoy that. So we don't delegate that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the social media side, it's actually me and my daughter. So um, depending on who's doing it, she's very much got the same sense of humor as me. So
Yep.
it works well. But it's in house. We're more of a family, not for profit org, but
Mm-hmm.
the way we delegate, we've got Snack as well, who traditionally used to do tournament stuff for us. We haven't done a bit of that since SGN, but Snack's been around forever.
Yep.
We've got Cloudy, who does our Discord and stuff like that. We just find good people that are interested. They want to learn. They
Mm-hmm.
are keen to move up or do their own thing. Like I would never be angry if someone left tomorrow and created their own org. It would just make me happy
Mm-hmm.
because another org in the scene. So
Yep.
I treat people who come in to work with DXA the same as I treat players. If you want a chance and you want an opportunity, you want to learn, you want to cast with me, come cast. You want to learn how to be a team manager, I'll give you a team. It's just how it is. That's how we sort of roll. Is if someone's keen, we'll give them a chance, and if they're doing a bad job, we'll guide them. We won't just kick them. We'll try and make it work, and we'll try and work through it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always work, but no, that's just how we operate as DXA. Where
Yep.
I've done the whole traditional business model.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work unless you're 1 in 10,
Yeah.
maybe 1 in 100 now. So you've got to think outside the box.
Mhm. It's kind of like
That's a
juggling.
big thing.
It's like kind of like juggling a lot of balls. This also happens in, like, the casting scene in particular. I think it was Richard Lewis was talking about it, where, like, someone was on a sports broadcast. I'm trying to remember the caster, and usually on the caster side or analyst side, you're expected to do like 3 or 4 different jobs. But when he was on
Yeah.
the sports broadcast, it was like one guy just doing the statistics job, one guy doing this, and it was just odd. Like they're just sitting there going, like, "Huh? Like, don't you do all of them? Don't you really do well?" It was an eye-opening experience. So kind of like
Yeah.
organization owning as well. You need a lot of different skills in particular,
You do.
all in one
You need to
go.
be able to you need to be able to put on multiple hats. You need to be a CEO. You need to be a CFO. You
Hmm.
need to be a team manager. You need to understand all of the games you're in.
Mm.
as an owner.
Yeah.
You can't just rely on everyone just to do your work for you. If you're not involved as an owner, you just end up like the ones we don't even remember.
Mm.
You know, every one of the G2, Navi, all them, most of the owners are very aware. I mean, I won't bring FaZe into it. They're very much a board driven
Yeah.
business. It's very different.
Mm.
But a lot of these are FlyQuest as well. You know, you see a lot of their management are very
Yeah.
heavily involved. Um, they're the teams that flourish. They're the teams that get the supporters. They're the teams that
Mm.
people love to hate, you
Yeah.
know? So I think that's the way to go is always be, you don't have to be a face. Like I'm really only the face,
Yeah.
obviously. Like not a lot of people know about the other owners unless they're specifically in that game.
Mm.
Um, but that's something they like. But you've got to be around. You've got to be a part of it. It's not just a business.
Yeah.
Esports. You can't just hire people and let it run.
Yeah.
It'll never work.
Um. So with an organization trying to break into a scene in particular, like, have you ever dealt with a point of like success where you can't really support a team beyond the next level? Like kind of like how Tricked had it with the Hunted roster, where they
Mm.
couldn't really elevate them beyond it because it was outside their means. Have you ever had that moment with any of your teams where
Yeah.
that they're too
Yeah.
good for your org, basically? And how do you handle that from an org perspective? Because eventually, anyone starting their own org is going to have this issue. And how did you deal with it?
So I had this happen a while ago. This was back in my first run,
Mm.
back in the day.
Yeah,
So I was working with an org, trying to think of what their last name was. Doesn't matter. But I was working with an org. They were sort of semi-pro, so they were based in Australia, but they kept making it overseas.
yeah,
And they were making it year after year. And it just got to a point where we couldn't support it. We couldn't fund it. Um, and it was starting to hurt the team. And
mm-hmm.
that's when we sort of sat down and went, okay, we need to find these guys a new home
Yeah,
because they need the support that we can't give them, and they need to be overseas.
mm-hmm.
So back then, it was a bit different because we had sister teams.
Yep,
So you would normally each region would have a large EU or NA team that would support them.
mm-hmm.
So we would go to them first, and then sort of merge out from there. They would look in NA or
Mm-hmm.
EU, and they'd find and place them and help.
Yeah,
So it's sort of out the window now, so it's a bit different. The way I look at it now is in this current climate,
mm-hmm.
don't don't be too big headed. You know, like if you need help, one, the community will help in Australia. Like if you need the support, don't be afraid to say the team's made it. We need some backing. We need help. It's going to help you. Don't ever be afraid to ask the community. Second is don't hurt a team just because of your ego or you're
Mm-hmm.
worried about not looking good. Because at the end of the day, you're doing this for the teams and you're doing this to make. And I'd much rather stand at the sideline, like looking at MJ recently,
Mm-hmm.
standing at the sideline, looking at his team playing on Navi.
Yeah,
For that's a big moment,
mm-hmm.
you know, for any org owner, and it should be.
Yeah,
You'd never be angry at that, you know, like that's amazing. So you've got to have that mindset from the start. You shouldn't be doing this industry if you don't sit back and think, oh my God, this guy made it and I help him get there.
mm-hmm.
Because that's where you should be finding that satisfactory and just being allowing people to flourish.
Mm-hmm. So, like, let's just say you want to try to get to that next stage in particular for an organ. You've done this with multiple teams.
Hmm.
Do you have any advice or any idea how you'd think of it? Like, have you thought about it in particular? Like, if you've done like 4 tier 1 rosters, for example, and you've elevated and passed them on to different teams, where would you even look at expanding in particular? Have you got any ideas to expand like an org if you've done that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like if you're consistently doing that, if you're in a region where you're consistently moving players through, one, the sponsors come. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
obviously you're going to start getting a little bit better cash flow because they're going to people see. You know,
Mm-hmm.
other teams see if you're consistently bringing players through, you've got something. You know, like the industry sees that, but also too, me personally, I would look at moving DXA to Asia if we were
Mm-hmm.
consistently growing and still bringing teams over, but having maybe a Malta residence like a lot of teams do,
Yeah.
where a lot of teams can come to boot camp. And so that'd be the next step, would be to have a facility, like to have no, I wouldn't say a facility, but having a boot camp area in Malta
Yeah.
or There's one in Mongolia as well. But that's the next step, is if you're trying to consistently be in that international scene, you really need to have a representation in one of those next step communities, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And like, overall, let's just say, failing as an org in particular, like, as an org owner, like, your org's failed, for any reason in particular. Um, how do you deal with it, as per se, if your org has failed?
I mean, I've had a failed org before.
Yeah.
It happens. I've had failed gaming companies too. But you need to learn from it. You
Mm-hmm.
need to sit down, look at yourself, and say, why did it fail? And
Mm-hmm.
up until recently, 99% of the time, it'll be because it's esports winter, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of factors that aren't against you, so you could try again.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who is skimming off the top, or not playing your players in time, or
Mm-hmm.
promising things you can't deliver, um, then you probably just shouldn't do it. You should learn that you're not good for this. But
Yeah.
if you fail and you're genuinely just trying, and you just failed because you haven't met a niche, you've not made it in or found the right team or whatever, build yourself back up, get yourself a little kitty, reflect like any business, like any CEO would, or any
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur would. Reflect on what you did bad and reflect on what you did good,
Yeah.
and start again and try again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you should never give up. If you've done nothing wrong,
Yeah.
failure is just a learn is just learning,
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it.
Talking about learning in an industry in particular, like if you want to become like an organization owner in the future, what's one of the best roles you can do to like learn a lot about running organizations or esports orgs in particular?
Social media and team management. I think if you can get into a social media aspect, if you're someone who likes PR is 80% of esports at the moment. And it's merch, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're someone who's really good at that, that's where I'd sort of enter, because you can, the owners are always feeding to the social people what they want. You're going to be around the owners a lot to understand the business. And then on the other side is, if you like the team management or coaching side, trying to get in with teams and orgs as an assistant to an assistant, or, especially some of the bigger orgs,
Mm-hmm.
or getting onto an academy coach or team management role, you're going to see very quickly how the place builds.
Yeah.
And that's where I normally bring people on if they want to volunteer, is in that sort of area, because they get to shadow the people that are doing it every day.
Yeah.
And you've just got to find the right org, and that's been hard traditionally. I've heard some other people go into other orgs, and this is a while back. I'm not saying the current orgs,
Yeah.
because I know that, I work very closely with a lot of the CS orgs and they all do the right thing. But traditionally, there were some orgs there that ran like a Xi Jinping or North Korean bloody
Mm-hmm.
prison camp,
Yeah.
So um, you just got to find the right people to also make it right for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting abused every day, probably not the right org to go and hang out with.
Yeah.
So you've got to use your own common sense as well, if you want to learn from people.
Mm-hmm. Also, I was wondering as well, like, what one trait in particular that you're looking for, like in org owners or like successful org owners, like what one trait in particular? I know we touched on one of them, but I just want to confirm it.
Mhm. Um, I look for two things as an org owner.
Yep.
One is the passion for esports, and the other one is eagerness. If someone is eager and has a bit of a business mind, I guess, as well, is probably a big thing if you're going to take them on straight away. But if I'm looking at someone young who's not coming straight out of uni or still playing on a team that's shown interest, they need to be really keen to understand the business.
Mm-hmm.
The old saying, like, be a sponge. I look for sponges, people who listen, who want to learn. And the other thing is obviously the passion.
Yeah.
You've got to have that passion.
I was actually expecting integrity. Actually, you highlighted quite a bit. Like you're to act
Oh,
yourself with your integrity.
I just take that as any good person, but you're
Mm-hmm.
totally right. I'm not going to touch anyone without integrity. Integrity is first and foremost, is definitely the number one.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no integrity, then I'm not picking you up with a 10-foot pole. Um, yeah, I've definitely seen a few of those around there. And ego too. Ego is a big thing. If you've got a huge ego, you're not gonna you're not gonna clash well with org owners because one, they've got their own ego and they're also
Yeah.
probably 20 years ahead of you. So yeah.
I always have my own clashes with my ego and whatnot. I'm just like, it's just like at the same time, just like sitting there like, am I really doing this? Like, am I really that good and stuff like that? Or it's like, am I overrating myself? It's just like an endless battle kind of type thing with ego
Mm,
integrity. So how do you kind of control that as an org owner in particular? Because like everyone likes, beefing you up and whatnot. How do you just like keep the
yeah.
lid on, okay, and don't become a Carlton supporter?
Look, all of my other owners keep my head popped and keep me down to earth
Yeah.
very much, So having good people around you for one,
Yeah.
because it's true. You get big head moments.
Hmm.
You want to be edgy. You want to say stupid shit. I mean, 99% of the time, the owners agree with me, but I've got a rule, especially with social media. I send it to the org owners first, and if I get a laugh, I know it's too edgy. So then I send it to the players and go, "Is this too much?"
Hmm.
Because a couple of my owners are as edgy as me, but um, it's just about having good people around you and making sure they keep you level-headed. Um, because a lot of us come from gaming. A lot of us were just the toxic ego kid like anyone else.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's just always having good people around you to keep your head straight because I've made mistakes before. I mean,
Hmm.
you've
Oh,
you've
definitely.
you've passed the same people as me
Yeah.
with the certain crews, but you learn from those mistakes and they also bring you back to earth as well. So
Uh,
um,
I've made
yeah,
plenty of dumb mistakes at the start. Like I've been a dick to people and stuff like that. I don't,
hmm
I feel bad for it today and stuff like that as well.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I think overall, like, ugh,
I won't burn bridges unless they're burnt for me.
yeah,
So even if it's someone I can't really deal with, I'll always be friendly because you
mm,
never know.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
business. Like that's a business etiquette more than anything, though, not esports.
yeah. My biggest issue is that I live with my heart on my sleeve half the time. So I say shit,
Yeah,
and then
I'm the same.
it's just, yeah, it's just really controlling it, just making sure that people are like, nah, man, this is too much of a big head moment. Stop it.
Mm.
And yeah, like I don't know how you
And
really.
there's those people. No, there's those people out there that just continuously do it. They think they're so big and they're so fucking like. I mean, look at FaZe, the
Mhm.
FaZe owners. They've got the biggest egos known to man, but it works.
Yeah.
But they build a brand off that. Um, if you're not specifically building a brand off that, it's going to hurt you so hard at the back end.
Mhm.
You're just going to start making it. You'll make it to tier one, and then you'll get gobbled up so quick. It's not funny
Mhm.
because everyone's got just as many comebacks as what you have. So
Yeah.
you've got to check it. You've got to check that ego at the door. And once you've been in for a while, you can make jokes, but yeah, until you've sort of brought into the community, I think that's what it is actually. Until you're accepted in the community, and that means for every individual game,
Yeah.
don't overstep your bounds because you're just going to get pushed out
Mhm.
if you're an ass, and that's not going to help your legacy
Mhm.
of an organ owner. So respect the communities you're walking into,
Mhm.
learn them, and then you'll never have a problem, and then you can shit on them all you like.
Yeah. So overall, from a money situation, I think money in AE esports is pretty dry in particular.
Yeah.
So, what do you view like esports in particularly as in that kind of aspect? Like I said before, like it can be run like a rugby club.
Mm.
Like, does it feel like more of a community sort of thing feel to it rather than a trying to make money sort of feel from it? Like, do you approach esports with like, hey, we're just trying to get a basketball team together, or like do you approach of trying to like a high, half club, half business sort of model? Like, what should every org owner approach it as first?
I look at it as a half and half, right? You've got to have an income stream and you've got to have an outstream. So you've got a couple of different options there. Like esports itself, as in the gaming, is
Mm-hmm.
always going to lose you money,
Yep.
right? Unless you're getting that $1 million sticker money and $100,000 a year in takebacks, you're not gonna make a lot of money. So when you're building up an org, you got to have a bit of a revenue stream. So whether that's 10% of your wage or a side business or a side hustle, whatever it may be, or your parents give you some money, whatever it may be. I don't know your situation, but you've got to come into it with a little bit of money, just so that you can set yourself up. You've got to have website, you've got to have all this business stuff. But traditionally, if you can offer expertise, the players will come, right? Okay. So make sure, the way I look at it is if I'm starting up a new org like I did with Arena, I'll go grab a team or talk to a team that I like that shows potential, hence why I went back to Keo. And did an agreement, and then I built the org around him, knowing that I had that roster pretty solid. And then I started building from that. So that's when I started to look at other games that I already knew. But someone who's never been in the scene before or any scene before, I mean, it's very doubtful because you've probably been a player at least. Stick to that first scene understand it fully. And whether it's making T-shirts at home for $15, whether it's, I don't know, selling lemonade on the side of the road, whatever your hustle is, you just need to have a hustle at the start so that you can build up. If you're just going to create a Twitter page and start annoying teams, they're not going to respect you and it's not going to work. You've got to spend time. You've got to spend time building your brand. Blah Esports coming soon. Build your website. Talk to a team. Make sure you got your team together first. Don't go out there looking. Yeah, sorry.
Sounds like a good name, Blah Esports. You have the Riot logo, Blah Esports.
But yeah, you want to juggle it, but you've got to have something to sell. At the end of the day. Otherwise you're selling yourself. And if no one knows you, they're probably not going to care about your little org and banner. So I think you just need to work.
So let's get away from that side in particular of the orgs. Let's get to the financial side. Like, how do you set up your organizations in particular? Like, obviously in Australia, you got the ABN and whatnot. Is there any separate entities that you set up with the esports organization? Like, do you set up a company, a trust, or what goes on basically as well?
Yeah, so, this one's different. So traditionally we'd do a trust. Traditionally you do a trust, and then that'd be your father company, so to speak, and then you would draw things off of that. So you'd have the org underneath that, etc. The way we've done it, we've got our own companies, and then we funnel into DXA. So we've done it differently this time.
So it's a joint venture, basically.
Yeah, it's a joint venture this time. So we just put money into DXA when we need it, and we don't really take anything out of it. So like I say, traditionally we were like everyone else, but because we've all gone off, we've all got careers, we're all doing stuff now, we're more doing this like a venture capital, like just pouring money into it, and if something comes back, great. But we also got merch on the side, and when I say merch, I'm making merch for other companies. We're not very good at putting merch out ourselves. We do educational packages because my wife is a teacher, so we do esports packages for primary schools. So we've got backing, we've got our own personal backing. All runs under DXA or a part of DXA. I've got another company that I'm starting up at the moment called Medi Esports, bringing medical equipment for esports. You just got to try things. You've got to have something that funnels into esports, and then esports will grow. Like once your brand grows, once everything grows, it'll start to turn a profit. And you don't need to rely on the 10 or 20 or 80% cut. I think 100 Thieves were at one point.
I think so. It's more of like so it's more of like trust structure for you guys. It's more like companies feeding into a joint venture sort of thing. Is there have you seen org set up as a company instead or anything like that?
Or I see that all the time.
Or has it just been this? Let me put it this way: has any person actually done it in their sole name or partnership, or has it always been a separate legal entity?
I think in most cases it's a separate legal entity, because if it fails, which is a high risk in esports, you don't want it to hit your family. So it's always good business practice to have it separate to anything else. that's just something you'll learn down the track.
Yeah.
It depends how your org grows. Those kids some people do have orgs that do start from a bedroom and become big things. I think I watched a thing about one of the Indian teams where he's 14 and he's one of the big owners of one of the top Indian teams. It does happen. You've just got to have the right backing. I still think that's like winning the lotto, but if you've got passion, and all CEOs will tell you this, and all big, the Elon Musk of the world and stuff will tell you this. If you've got passion and you've got knowledge, you'll always make money. And it's true with anything, and especially in esports. If you can find a way to make money, or if in our case it doesn't cost us a lot of money, so we don't have to put a hell of a lot into it. So, and we're happy where we are at the moment. We could grow it tomorrow. We could go and spend 100K a month. But there's no point at the moment. Why would you do that unless it's dad's money and he's got another 10 mil behind it, So for us normal people that don't win the lotto, just be smart about it. You may have 100 grand there, but maybe only spend 10 in the first year and see how you go. Then put 20 in, or, and just take it slow. Orgs need to build naturally. If you're trying to do it quick, you may as well just go gamble.
Are you kind of afraid, like, this is what I mentioned as well, one of my articles with the ANZC in particular. Are you afraid of, like, not spending too much, where it could be a death by 1,000 cuts where you're not relevant because you don't spend too much, or you're not too worried about that?
I'm not really worried about that because I can step up and step down, right? So, but I can understand the fear. I had that fear back in the day. So there's always that fear of, I need to spend a bit more. I need to spend a bit more. I mean, I'll be honest, I used to do it with Chiefs and Bliss, with Brendy, because they have, the Chiefs had the mansion and Bliss had the internet cafe or HQ. I'd love to do that, but then I see what they spend on it and how much they have to do to keep it. And it's like, well, maybe that's not my thing, and it hasn't been my thing yet. But then we're now looking at possibilities in other places. So it's whatever floats your boat, Like, I used to get envious of that stuff, but now it's just like, we just do our own thing. We're happy with what we do, and if we start to become irrelevant, then I'll just buy a bigger team. Like, let's be honest, because I love esports too much. I don't want to. I'll just make it so we're not irrelevant anymore.
Just hire Sav and Aiden, okay?
Exactly. Sponge's not doing anything. I'll just get him to talk shit all day under the DXA name. We'll make millions.
Oh, I always love, like, commenting on Aiden's threads, like, because this is a joke about Nancy Pelosi. Like, he has an extra drink, so just every time, like, where's the Coke Zero, mate?
Yes.
But anyways, what's the one biggest lesson before we end the podcast here? What's the one biggest lesson you've learned as an org owner? Or in making an org overall?
Well, don't be afraid to fail. Like, when a team breaks up or a team doesn't work, don't let it hit you personally. You're trying to keep 5 players together that gel, that have all different backgrounds, different home lives, different everything. It's going to take some people 20 or 30 teams before they find something that actually works. Take your time, look for what you want and go for it. Don't worry, because that's the one thing with an org owner, you'll feel like you fail over and over all the time, especially once you start hitting 5 or 6 teams like us. You feel like you fail all the time, right? You've got to get away from that, because you've got to just take the wins. It's glass half full, right? Like, you've got to look at it as glass half full, because esports org owning, or any team owning, but I think it's definitely magnified as esports owning because you own multiple teams. You are going to get a lot of losses before you get good wins. So you've just got to learn not to take it to heart. You got to be prepared to fail and take the fails and move on. The amount of times I get slandered for making decisions on players I get, and that, you've got to let it roll off your back. Ignore it and just make the decisions you want to make until it works, because that's what you're in it for. Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. And also getting an interesting insight to orgs and how they run. Also getting an interesting insight in you. Really, really appreciate it. And to
No, thank you for your time, Josh. I really appreciate coming on.
yeah, no worries. And to guys in chat, you want to say anything to all your fans, especially Ruffle Co. Still here. He's waiting for his part where he can reveal his last story, mate.
No, I think everyone knows that I genuinely love esports, and I everyone in the community knows who I like. I always spend a lot of time with people outside of DXA.
Mhm.
A lot of people come to me to talk and just shoot the breeze and ask questions. I appreciate that and I love that. And I may talk shit like Arena Rejects, but they know I love them. Um, and everyone knows that I just care about the community. So please, doors always open. I love you guys, and I'd do anything for anyone. So unless you're an asshole,
Yeah,
asshole's not welcome. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I love this community, and I left for 10 years and still came back, and they opened arms with me. So a lot of respect, a lot of
You
respect.
got any social medias or anything like that where people can find you, like Twitter, Twitch?
Yeah, Twitter, Twitch, and even my Gmail, Monitor303. You find me on Monitor303 anywhere and everywhere.
Including Google. If you type in Monster 303, are you the first result?
Yeah, I think I am actually. Let's test this theory. I am indeed. There you go.
There you go.
Twitter and Twitch.
You can find them on Google as
Find me on
well.
Google.
Anyways, guys,
Or
thanks.
if you want to talk to the scammer, I have got a scammer on Steam that is mimicking me at the moment. So go ask him. He finds me.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you something really funny. I've got like 5 APOC duds trying to add me on Steam at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I've got so many people ask me, is this you? Is this you? Is this you? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's not me. Just report it.
Yep. Anyways, thanks for being on, and thanks to the audience. Hope you guys have a lovely day, and we'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Bye.